お前はどこまで見えている。俺死に様か。
Orochimaru longed for immortality and took to stealing body after body, until he decides to create the perfect vessel, containing the top DNA and chakra he wanted. During the Chunin exams he forces his vessel on a young Naru. She finds her life thrown upside down now and leaves the village desperate to keep her new life path hidden. Under the watchful eyes of Jiraiya and Tsunade, she keeps her new addition as safe as possible. But nothing can stay quiet forever. But no longer the defenseless genin she now will do whatever it takes to keep what she loves safe. Can she get a happily ever after? I'm fine. I'm fine. Naru whimpered in pain as she struggled to sit up, her chest heaving for air. Tremors racked through her body, increasing the pain she was already in, most of it located in her lower region and legs. She wiped her face of tears, snot, and blood. W.H. Warehouse. She struggled and failed to get out. She looked to the surrounding area of the dark forest. She was alone, and she was terrified. She wanted nothing more than to cry, to curl up in a ball and cry until her tears dried up into nothing, until she dried up into nothing. Maybe if she closed her eyes tight enough she would find this was all a nightmare, that Kaka-sensei would knock on her window with a D-rank mission and then ramen for lunch, which of course he would try to skip out on the bill. I'd clean up if I were you, best not to let yourself be seen like this. She whimpered in fear again, turning slowly to the nightmare behind her, the intimidating man behind her who hurt her in a way she never thought possible. He walked forward, she let out a raspy scream, kicking back in the dirt, not moving far. He grabbed her bare ankle, stopping her, and crouched above her and grabbed her orange pants that lay next to her, and laid them across her lap, and stared at her face, his golden eyes holding delightment in the fear that was evident on her. I look forward to the results, little one. Be a good little girl and let it play out. I ensure it will take effect, but as a fair warning, don't do anything to my vessel. He grinned a sharp-toothed smile before producing a heaven scroll from his pouch, laying it on the top of her pants before vanishing. Her jaw quivered before she let out a louder cry, heaving for air before she began hitting her head, unable to stop seeing the scene over and over play out. Her stomach churned as she looked down at her body, the bruises on her legs, the tattered remains of her underwear lay by her ankles, her jacket unzipped and her undershirt pushed up. He was right, she couldn't let anyone see her like this. What would they say? What would they do to her? She whimpered as she pulled her jacket off, fixing her undershirt, and touched her stomach, which ached at the touch. Why did this happen to her? She stood up before quickly falling back to the earth. She bit out a curse, wiggled her orange pants up her legs, and willed her legs to work and ignore the pain. Wrapping the jacket around her waist and tied it tight, and turned towards the tree whose roots were arched high where her teammates lay unconscious. They put up a fight, a weak one compared to that thing, but they tried. Slow-drying blood stained their heads from the quick sneak attack that stopped their fighting, and it left her alone to fend them off. She gently grabbed Sasuke's shoulders, shaking him repeatedly until he came awake with a gasp, his kunai ready and poised to strike, his Sharingan eyes shining in anger and maybe a tinge of fear. It's okay, he left. She comforted him. He looked at her closely. It made her squirm. Did he know? Had he seen the vile act that took place just now? No, it wasn't possible. How did he dash? I mean, did you dash? He stuttered questions. Yeah, you know me, #1 unpredictable ninja. She laughed, scratching at the back of her neck. Let's wake Sakura up and get the hell out of here, huh? We need the scroll. Oh no, did he take our scroll? He questioned in a panic, scrambling towards the packs. Naru gave a small whistle, holding the scroll in front of her, making sure they remained out of sight from any peering eyes in the forest around. Nice one. He chuckled. Naru nodded, a large grin plastered on her face before she began to wake her other teammate, who came awake with her own cry of fear before they briefly explained the situation to her. If we leave now and travel slow, we should make it by sunrise, or we can rest, Naru, if you dash. I'm fine. She blurted out and struggled to her feet, giving a small stumble before straightening again. You battled that freak longer than us, shouldn't you dash? I said I'm fine, Sakura, let's get to the tower and get out of this hellhole, okay? She partially pleaded with her teammates. Quickly the trio headed through the forest under the cover of night. Naru trailed in the back, desperately trying to ignore the flashbacks and the pain in her body. She let out a quiet whimper before she turned halfway and promptly threw up before collapsing to her knees, letting out a small cry. Are you okay? Sakura questioned. She sniffled, nodding quickly, trying to stand and failing miserably. I guess I'm hurt from the fight, I just can't stand up. She whispered. Just give me a minute and I'll get up. She chuckled, gripping the grass tight and pulling it from the ground. A tremor traveled her spine, and she quickly became aware of the missing clothing that was hidden in her pocket. His voice hissed in her ear, making her cry out in fear and start crying, covering her face quickly. Naru, what's going on? Sasuke questioned. I'm fine, gotta stop being lazy. She sniffled, wiping the tears away, and struggled to stand up before Sasuke draped her arm over his shoulders, propping her up, and Sakura followed on her other side. It's a team test, so we'll finish this stretch together. Sakura smiled. Naru nodded her head and walked with them to the tower. The tower is right there, but it's going to be a sprint to the doors. No doubt traps are going to be set and people are watching, Sasuke whispered. Maybe if we create a distraction we can get there. If you can't run, Naru, maybe you go first and we'll distract Dash. No, let's just run for it. I'll be fine. She insisted, but let's use a smokescreen just in case. She rummaged in her pouch, revealing a handful of smoke bombs and throwing them in the clearing, watching thick smoke fill the area before they rushed forward into it. Naru whimpered quietly in pain, falling to the ground as a sharp throbbing ricocheted through her hips and back. Damn it. She whispered, pushing up before two hands grabbed and hauled her up. Thank Waya, she yelped as she looked up to see the second face of her nightmares, a grin on his face as he adjusted the large spectacles on his face. No. She whimpered, pushing at his hands on her once again. His grip intensified as he ushered her forward through the smoke. Orochimaru-sama assigned me to make sure his vessel arrives unharmed. The amount of traps you three would have fallen for is outstanding. He whispered in her ear. It made her want to throw up again. Naru. Sakura called out through the smoke. Kabuto gave a harsh shove to her shoulders, making her stumble until she hit the building between Sasuke and Sakura in a complete daze of fear. Let's go, Sasuke said, pulling her up as clangs of metal sounded in the smoke and screams of pain. What's going on? Sakura questioned as Sasuke pulled Naru inside before pushing the doors shut once they were inside. We made it. He huffed, sliding down the wall with a huff. Should we open the scrolls? Anko said to wait until we were here. Sakura mumbled, looking around the large room in the limited lighting. Yeah. Sasuke huffed, standing up and looking at Naru, who sat still staring at the doors, a small tremor ever so slightly visible. Both opened the scrolls before smoke began to hiss and the paper swelled. Sasuke threw his scroll, followed by Sakura, as smoke exploded in the room and some lights came on, revealing a familiar Chunin standing there with a proud grin on his face. Been a while, kids. He commented. Iruka-sensei, why are you appearing from a scroll? Sakura questioned. Naru turned at the mention of his name. I'm here to deliver the message of this test. I was eager to give the message to you all. How'd you know we'd make it? Sasuke questioned. Well, Kakashi-san had faith in you, and I do too. Now let's talk about this test and then we'll get you a bed to rest in. As Iruka passed the message about the aspect of heaven and earth lessons, he beckoned for them to follow, noticing Naru's limited movements. Are you okay? He questioned. She smiled at him with a nod, limping slightly. Sore. I can carry you. He offered, nearly touching her hip. She yelped, jumping away from him before looking down. Sorry, I'm hurting a lot, sensei, but I'm fine, I can make it. She chuckled awkwardly. She pushed past, hobbling along as Iruka led them through the halls into a room with 3 beds and an adjacent door. Bathroom there. Supplies are located downstairs by the cafeteria along with some snacks before breakfast at 6. Kakashi should come to visit soon. If you need anything, let us know. He said before departing with a smile. I'm going to get some supplies and snacks, Sakura said standing. Sasuke nodded his head. Naru headed to the bathroom, walked in without a word, shut the door, locked it, and stood in front of the sink mirror. She stared at her reflection, the subtle bruise on her head, mud in her hair, and staining her clothes. Slowly stripped her clothes and turned the shower on first, letting the warm water wash the dirt off her body and out of her hair until it ran clear before running the bath. She sat slowly in silence, staring at the ivory walls. The faucet dripped water every 10 seconds, and she could hear her teammates muffled talking on the other side of the door. Sliding down until she slid under the water, closed her eyes and dug her nails into her palms. Sasuke! Sakura! Naru yelped as she caught the movement of the sneak attack that knocked both of her teammates unconscious. Before she could react, he was in front of her and slammed his fist into her stomach, causing her to collapse to the ground, heaving for air. Do the honor of stopping her fight, Kabuto, it'll be much easier. He hissed as the young boy who was nice not a day ago looked at her with malice and sick pleasure. With glowing chakra he grabbed her shoulders and neck, causing her to lose tension in her body. She was just a puppet to their plans, her jaw quivering at the thought of dying. As a ninja, it was expected, but she had never expected it to be this soon. Hyubi Jinchuriki, one of the last public Uzumakis, daughter of the Yondaime and house to quite a bit of special and rare chakra, you're more of a prize than even the Sharingan. The man hissed, crouching in front of her. But, I do still need that dojutsu, and if legend serves, combining powerful bloodlines and chakra natures, a near-perfect vessel can be created. He lowered his voice, his hand landed on her hip, and yanked her forward. She let out a strangled cry, the realization of what was actually happening. She prayed for Kami himself to strike her down then and there. Orochimaru-sama, let's make this quick, the fight was sure to bring onlookers, Kabuto warned as he watched his master unravel his plans. The young girl was terrified, and rightly so. Right here will be the start of your future and mine. He whispered to the girl, raising her shirt, revealing her stomach and touching her skin right where her womb would be. No. No. She screamed in fear, her eyes darting back and forth as she began to hyperventilate between them. Naru? Sasuke's muffled voice sounded, pulling from the past to the present, her lungs burning for air as she came to and shot up with a quiet gasp, heaving for air. Naru? He questioned with a knock. Why, yeah. She struggled out, trying to not sound like she hadn't been near drowning in the bathtub. Kakashi's here, he wants to check on all of us, you've been in there for a while. He said with hesitation in his voice. Coming. She managed to stand, draining the tub and drying off, pausing again at her reflection and whimpering. You're okay, Naru, you're okay. It's a slim chance, you're fine. She whispered, opting to not put her orange jacket back on. She balled the ripped underwear up tight and wrapped it in toilet paper, intent on destroying it the second she could, but for now, she stashed it in her jacket. She paused at the small bottles of soap and quickly rubbed it on her skin, knowing all too well the skills of her sensei, one being his highly trained sense of smell. The last thing she needed was for him to confront her. She couldn't face him. What would he say? What would he do? It was impossible to know. He had been there for her a few times when she came to him, but that was for knowledge, for training. It wasn't a hey, I just went through assault and I need big-time help kind of thing. She emerged from the bathroom to find Kakashi perched on the empty bed that would be hers and her teammates on the other beds eating food. She sat down on the bench by the window, pulling her legs up to her chest, and sighed quietly. Naru? Kakashi questioned. She looked at him and tried to smile, but feared if it was more of a grimace. Hi sensei, looks like we did it, huh? She chuckled, not missing the scrunch on his eyebrow as he looked at her closely. She wasn't herself. He knew something. He was going to say something. Nay, any ramen here? I need some ramen after all this databao. She chirped, throwing her toothy grin towards him, and watched as he relaxed. I heard you had a tough fight. He commented, and she struggled to not react the wrong way. Nah. I mean, yeah, he was tough, but I got him to leave. I'm fine. I'm proud of how fast you finished. It wouldn't have happened if Naru didn't manage to steal the scroll from that guy, Sasuke commented. Kakashi nodded his head, looking at her again as she picked at her nails. Well, now you get to rest and relax. There are still 3 more days left now, so get some rest and we'll regroup later. He said. Good night, sensei. Sakura yawned, falling back to her bed after moving the food. Sasuke followed with a sigh. Kakashi stood up looking once again at Naru, who stared out the window. Naru, if you need to talk to me or if something happened. Kakashi started in a low tone. Nay, why do you say that, sensei? I'm fine. She hunched as he looked at her closer than before. I'm just tired. Never thought a test could be this stinkin' hard. She laughed, standing up quickly and wincing in pain before jumping on her bed, bouncing and burying herself in the blankets, hearing his chuckle before he slid the blinds shut and walked out of the room. I'm fine. I'm fine. I'm so not fine. She whimpered in her head, closing her eyes tight and holding in the tears she so desperately wanted to let explode from her throat, knowing very well she was the farthest away from fine she had ever been in her 13 years. Results. Naru, time to head downstairs. Kakashi-sensei said we have to be there by noon, Sakura called. She sighed heavily, sliding out of bed, wiggling her toes, and staring at the floor beneath them. She had barely moved from this bed in 3 days. Complaining of being sick made them leave her alone and let her wallow in sadness like she wanted. But today the exams were over and they had to move on to the next phase of the tests, whatever that might be. As the team followed the halls down, the various voices filled the once empty halls. Sounds like Kiba and his team made it, Sasuke commented as Kiba's voice carried along with Akamaru's yapping. All the genin remaining stood in the large auditorium, each team lined in single file. Naru glanced around, spotting teams 8 and 10, Guy's team, the Sand siblings, a sound team, and finally Kabuto and his team. A tremor snaked down her spine as she struggled to not vomit in front of everyone seeing him again. Before them stood the Jounin team leaders, some Chunin, Anko, Ibiki, and Hiruzen looking over them. First off, let me just say congratulations on passing the second exam. 78 of you started and now you're all that's left. I of course thought it'd be single digits, but hey. Anko mumbled the end in the mic before chuckling. But the only issue with that is, there are far too many of you remaining for you to continue to the third exam, so we will hold a preliminary round to cut you down to single digits. The genin began to voice their complaints and murmur to themselves. Listen now, these exams draw attention from all over and many important figures will be attending. If all of you were to participate, it would never end. You have proven your skills in a team setting, now it's time to prove yourself individually, which is why being part of a team is no longer required. Hiruzen commented. Hey, 8 will be holding these exams, please move to the sides and your spar will be selected randomly. A Jounin stepped forward, raising his hand. As Hokage-sama said, I will be your next proctor, I will call the start and end of the battles, if anyone wants to surrender now, you may. He paused, waiting, but no one called for an end. Since there are an odd number of you, one if able may do an additional spar. If you lose your first one and win the second, or vice versa, we will meet and determine a solution. Please move to the sides. Naru slid to her knees once on the balcony and bit back a whimper of pain. Her heart slammed in her chest quickly, wondering exactly why she didn't walk away. She had much more pressing matters to concern herself with. Naru. She jolted as Kakashi crouched next to her, his steely gray eye bore into her own. She wanted to break. Are you okay? I can see you're in a lot of pain. If you need to step back, I'll be okay, sensei, thanks. She whispered, pressing her head to the bars in front of her. He stayed standing next to her and she found herself fighting to not lean against his strength. Rapid digital beeping echoed in the background of her mind before Sasuke gave a small scoff. First up, huh? She opened her eyes to see Sasuke's name on the large teleprompter with Yoroi displayed below. She glanced over to see the boy stand up and pass behind Kabuto, who whispered something before looking at her once again and giving a tiny smirk, adjusting his glasses, making her drop her head down and only watch the battle through her bangs. Are both parties ready? Hey, questioned, receiving grunted murmurs from both. Begin. He stepped back as both genin slid into position, waiting for one to move first. Sasuke took the first step, throwing a punch towards Yoroi, who dodged and gave his own to Sasuke's stomach, making him stumble back, heaving for air. "If that's the best you have, might as well declare me the winner," he taunted. Sasuke growled low before rushing forward. Yoroi dodged the boy's move but watched as he sprung back, wrapped his legs around his extended arm, and flung him to the ground on his back. Sasuke growled, using all his strength to pin him down. "Wrong choice," Yoroi said, twisting his hand and gripping Sasuke's shirt, crumpling it up, and focusing his chakra. "Wah!" Sasuke slurred as the strength he had began to fade rapidly. "I am my master's favorite. I take chakra. The longer you keep in contact with me, the more of your chakra I eat and convert to my own." Sasuke's eyes rolled up as he went slack. Yoroi flipped around and elbowed Sasuke's stomach, making him cough and gasp for air, curling his body inward. "Sasuke kun!" Sakura screamed in fear as the boy lay there helpless. He groaned, looking up before a devilish smirk crossed his face. Yoroi ran forward, ready to give the kill shot, only for Sasuke to jump up, using his arms as a springboard, his foot connecting to Yoroi's jaw, throwing him in the air. Sasuke appeared just behind him, touching his back and flipping him over. Sure Rendan!" he yelled, bringing his leg down against Yoroi's stomach and slamming him into the ground. Sasuke hit after stumbling to his feet, struggling to stay awake. Yoroi didn't move from the hit. Hayate stepped forward, touched the genin's neck and stood up, giving a small cough. "Uchiha Sasuke is the winner of the first match. Yoroi cannot continue. Congratulations," he said. Sakura and Ino cheered loudly as Sasuke stumbled out, guided by the medic ninja who hauled Yoroi onto a stretcher and slipped out. Naru closed her eyes as the matches continued, one by one eliminating one genin each. She grunted as Kakashi nudged her with his leg, giving a head nod to the screen where she found her name displayed with Kabuto's. She let out a gag before balling her fists and walking down the stairs. The boy stood still, watching her closely, his skin marred in bruises as this was his second match. "Begin." Naru shifted back before launching at the boy, who blocked the hits but gave none of his own. Naru growled at his lack of trying. She pulled back, producing a shuriken, and sliced the boy across his nose, drawing blood and knocking his glasses off. Kakashi glared at the fight, eyeing both genin. "He basically tore Kiba apart and now he's not even trying," Sasuke murmured. "Maybe he's spent?" Kabuto shifted, grabbing Naru's leg, causing her to scream and buck. He flung her to the side and huffed. Naru curled in a ball, more terrified than hurt, his touch rendering her useless. "Get up! Kill him!" A demonic voice echoed in her brain. "Make him pay!" Naru sprung in the air, her canines sharp with her nails. Kabuto brought his hands up to block them and cried out as red chakra lashed out, burning his skin. Naru landed in a crouch before rushing forward, swiping at him, anger building. Kabuto snarled, grabbing her throat in a tight grip, pumping chakra into her body, watching her go limp. She whimpered as she was thrown back into the forest. Naru screamed in fear before choking and thrashing as best she could. He slammed the girl on her back, huffing for air, and gave a malicious grin. Kakashi gripped his arm as he watched the scene unfold. The fear on her face was clear, but he couldn't understand why. "Beat him, Naru. You got this." Sakura cheered. Naru tried to pry his hand off with no luck. "Luck ran out, kid," Kabuto whispered low. She began to thrash, tears springing up as her consciousness began to fade. The boy released, letting air flow back into her lungs. She gasped and coughed before stumbling to her feet. She sneered at the boy, creating a barrage of clones that rushed him. He smirked, destroying one after the other. "I'll make you fix this," Naru thought, rushing forward as the clones distracted him. She launched forward with a yell as Kabuto pulled chakra up in his hand. She threw her body forward, praying it could destroy the act he helped create. The boy's eyes widened, realizing her plan. He dropped his chakra and instead flipped her over to the ground once more. "I quit," he yelled, and the spectators murmured at the outburst. Naru pushed up, letting out huffs of air, tears slipping down her cheeks. "By default, Naru Uzumaki is the winner," Hayate announced. Kabuto walked past her, flashing a grin. Naru screamed, launching towards him, chakra turning red and creating a clawed hand. "You bastard!" she screamed. Naru, the match is over. Hayate ordered, but it fell on deaf ears as she swiped at the boy, who dodged a few before the chakra caught him and knocked him back. She landed above him, drawing chakra up ready to deliver a deadly blow. Enough. Kakashi appeared, grabbing her arm and snaking his arm around her waist. She screamed and bucked, tears pouring down her face. He eyed the boy, who smirked at the girl. Calm down, he whispered. Her body went limp as he carried her out of the sight of others. Naru became aware of his hands and bucked against him. Easy, easy. No, don't touch me. Don't touch me. She nearly screamed. He released his grip, watching as she collapsed to the ground and crawled away from the jounin. Naru, talk to me, you know you can. What happened? Sensei, I'm sorry, she whispered. What did he do? He sat next to the girl. She sniffled before wiping her face. Nothing. He did nothing. Naru dash. I have to use the bathroom, she mumbled, standing and quickly disappearing down the hall. Kakashi scowled before flashing back to his place by Sasuke and Sakura. He grabbed the boy's arm, pulling him back. Did anything happen to Naru? Involving Kabuto, maybe? Not that I know of, unless he was who knocked us out. Kakashi sighed heavily before glaring at the silver-haired boy. He did something. Naru splashed her face before drying it. So close, she whispered. But so far, destroying my vessel won't be as easy as you think. She whirled around, finding Orochimaru standing at the door. She yelped and stumbled backward. Formidable effort, but useless nonetheless. I'm always watching you, and if you do anything to harm or destroy it, I'll kill everyone you hold dear and make you watch. His eyes bore into hers until she shut them tight and bit her lip. Tremors traveled along her body, and silence filled the room, making her peak, finding herself alone once more. Naru hit her head, muffling her cries with her hands, and slid to the floor. What do I do? Kakashi watched as Naru slipped back in the room and sat at the edge of the stairs. I got to get her to talk. The winners of the matches, please come down and line up. Hayate coughed and waited patiently. Naru stared at her feet as Hayate and the Hokage explained the next part of these exams and gave them all a month-long break to rest and prepare for the next test. Each drew a number and was selected to participate in tournament style. Naru stared at her name paired with Niji Hyuga. She slid her hand into her pocket where 3 plastic-wrapped sticks waited. This was her exam, and although she knew the answer, she still dreaded it. Come along. She looked up, finding the others walking out, and Kakashi stood by her. Sasuke, I'll get you in the morning. Sakura, great job, get some rest. Naru gave a half-hearted wave to her teammates. Come on, Kakashi directed Naru out and walked through the forest and back into the village. Naru, you know I'm here for you, right? I'll do what I can, but I have to know first so I can fix it. I know, sensei, I just, Naru bit into her swollen lip, and a tremor traveled up her spine. Did Kabuto hurt you? Naru's lip quivered and tears built up as Kakashi stared at her. Did he do something he shouldn't have? Naru opened her mouth but found her voice silent. I'll kill everyone you hold dear and make you watch. Orochimaru's voice echoed and made her mouth shut. I can't. Her voice quivered and stared at the dirt. Kakashi dropped to his knee and gently raised her head. Naru, I'm here, I can help, you just have to let me. Trust me. Naru began to quietly cry, covering her face, and hiccuped. Kakashi gently pulled Naru close and sighed as her head hit his shoulder and she let out a muffled scream into the vest. Easy, it'll be okay. He touched her back and huffed. Naru stopped struggling to catch her breath and felt his hands on her, which churned her stomach. Did something physical happen? He questioned. I got a dash. She pulled away and hugged herself. I'm sorry, she whispered before sprinting down the road and disappeared. Who hurt you? Naru slammed her apartment door and locked it, sliding to the floor. Idiot. 000. Naru laid on her bed like she had for 2 days. Dark bags under her eyes shone the lack of sleep. Every time she fell asleep she was assaulted with the memories, causing her to come awake with a scream. She stared at the pregnancy test she stole from the nurse's station. I guess. She numbly rose, grabbed the test and walked into her bathroom following the small instructions. As the seconds ticked as she stared at the used test waiting, she bit her nails until they seeped blood. Shakily she stood and looked at that mark, telling her her nightmare was true. No, no, no. No, 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 no. She screamed, swiping at the counter items, letting them smash to the wall and floor as she screamed and began to wail loudly, the small stick marked positive. Naru let out a defeated cry, collapsing, and stared out, her eyes becoming unfocused. She was far from okay. He took everything from her and she was left with the mess. What do I do? Help. Help. Naru winced as she opened her apartment door and stepped outside for the first time in a week. After ignoring Kakashi and his scent Ken and even her friends' knocks and calls, she finally grew the strength to leave in search of the one person who could possibly help her. Her skin looked pale with the dark bags and puffy eyes. She pulled the hood of her jacket up, jumped to the rooftops, and focused carefully. She combed through the hundreds of chakra nature, locating the one she needed, and took off in that direction. She landed at the hot springs, looked around and followed the trail, finding a man with waist-length white hair that was unruly at best. A scroll leaned on the wall. His face was pressed against the wooden fence that had a small hole clearly made for the exact activity he was participating in. Watching girls in the hot springs. Naru took in a deep breath before tapping his shoulder. He grunted and looked over before turning his attention back to the show. Go away, kid, you'll blow my cover. He hissed. Please, Jiraiya, I need you, I don't know who else to turn to, please. She noticed his pause before he turned to her fully and arched his eyebrow. Fine, it better be super important, kid, I'm in the middle of research. He gestured before standing to his tall height and grabbed his scroll before leading her to the small tea shop and ordering some tea. What can I do for you, kid? Firstly, you can drop the act of I don't know you and you can act like my godfather, because that's who I need right now. Her voice quivered. Jiraiya cleared his throat and nodded as they placed the order on the table and walked away. Okay, so if you know I'm your godfather, then you know Dash. Yes, I know who they are, I found out a few months ago. Jiraiya nodded. I need your help, like big time, and I am really scared, so I hope you. Naru stuttered before rubbing her head. Take a breath, take a drink, and talk slowly. He instructed. Naru did what he said and stared into the cup of tea. I took part in the Chunin exams just now and it went bad, like really bad, and now I'm in trouble. You need training then? No, Sai, I was in the forest of death and my team was ambushed and my teammates were knocked out. Our attacker was your teammate Orochimaru. Jiraiya frowned but motioned for her to continue. Well he said I was a better choice for his vessel that he could make, and put. Naru fought tears as she gripped her cup. Rap mmm. Naru bit her lip, hanging her head. Naru, are you saying he assaulted you, manually? Jiraiya whispered. Naru bit back a sob and nodded her head. He said, combining my DNA and... I don't remember everything, basically he created a vessel in me. She whispered and touched her stomach. I couldn't do anything, they paralyzed me and yeah. She mumbled. Jiraiya paled, his stomach churned and he fought to not throw up right there. I took a test, 3 actually, and it came back positive and I don't. He's watching all the time and threatens to kill everyone if I hope you can help me. Naru buried her face in her hands and began to cry. Jiraiya stood and pulled her in his arms, letting her sob into his chest. Naru, what do you need? I can protect you. Take me out of here. She whispered. I can't be here and be pregnant that. I'll have to tell Hiruzen. Please no. He'll make me stay and I can't. If I'm taking you now you'll miss the exams. I don't care, I can't do any more of those exams, not after this. Jiraiya rubbed her back and sighed. Alright, go home and pack. I'll go talk to Hiruzen, but I won't tell him, but I do know someone who could possibly help, so we'll find her and go from there, okay? Nara nodded, drying her face. Jiraiya lifted her head and gave a comforting smile. We'll get this fixed. You'll be okay. He whispered. He watched as she slowly walked away, and he stared until she disappeared from view. You went too far, you sick bastard. Jiraiya paid for the bill before focusing on finding Hiruzen. Nara's words and broken image kept replaying. Her stuttering that word made his stomach churn, and he promptly vomited on the side of the street outside the Hokage Tower. He coughed repeatedly before collecting himself and climbing the stairs. With a quick double knock, he opened the door, finding his sensei reading over papers on his desk. Might give him a heart attack with his age. Jiraiya, done researching? The Sannin found himself flinching as all he could think of was the innocence stripped from Naru. His research felt dirty for the first time in his life. Something like that. He rubbed the back of his head and huffed. I'm here just letting you know I'll be going on a journey, but I'll be taking Naru with me. She found you and asked for your help, Hiruzen smiled while Jiraiya gave a tight-lipped smile and bobbed his head. I don't see why not. The exams are in 3 weeks, so long as she's back in time for her match, I trust you. Thanks, I'll grab her and head out. Jiraiya entered Naru's apartment, finding her sitting and staring blankly at the wall, her bag packed. Let's get out of here, he quietly beckoned, watching as she gathered her pack and finished last-minute things before leaving a key under her mat. Both trekked to the village gates. Naru paused, looking at the face of her father carved in stone. I hope I'm not letting you down. So, we're gonna head to Otofuki Gai. There's someone that can help us. Naru nodded before giving a big yawn. Climb up, and get some rest. He crouched, allowing her to get on his back and lay her head on his shoulder, quickly falling asleep for the first time in days. Jiraiya walked through the town gates and followed the road to a small pub. Jiraiya beckoned the host towards him and cleared his throat. I'm looking for a woman, blonde, looks like she's in her mid-30s, kind of an angry drunk and poor gambler. He described, to which the man rolled his eyes. Yeah, she left for the motel down the road, a young girl with her too. The woman owes us 50,000 yen. If you find her sober, relay the message. He growled and walked away. Same old Tsunade, he mused, and headed towards the motel, giving the same description and getting her room number. As he approached the door, it slid open, revealing the woman he had described, her state rumpled and her face contorted in disgust as she grabbed towels from a shelf. Tsunade, she turned at her name and scowled at the man before a smile appeared. Jiraiya, come to harass me again about returning? No, I know better, it's actually much more important and only you can help her. Her? Jiraiya shifted his head, showing the girl still asleep on his back. It's bad, Tsunade, really bad. The woman blinked before jerking her head and inviting him in, where he gently shifted Naru from his back to the open bed and covered her up. Talk. Jiraiya looked at her, then at Naru, and heaved a sigh before he informed her of the situation and watched pity morph into anger as he explained. She's what? 12. 13? I knew he was sick, but not this sick. She stroked Naru's hair from her face and sighed. Let's wake her and I'll perform a scan and see if indeed she's pregnant. Sometimes tests can give false positive results, and with it being so soon, maybe her body will reject it. And if not, there are options for her. Jiraiya nodded and gently shook Naru awake, who shrank at the two women before they introduced themselves. I want to verify if you are positive or not, and we can discuss options. Naru lifted her shirt and took a calming breath as Tsunade drew green chakra in her hands and held them over her stomach. Naru looked around before landing on Jiraiya, who gave her a comforting smile. Tsunade pulled away and sighed with a head shake. I'm sorry, it's positive, I can sense the fetus already. Naru blinked back tears and nodded. But with a swipe of a chakra scalpel, you won't be, if you want me to. Tsunade stared into her eyes and clenched her fists as she mentally pummeled her ex-teammate to a pulp. IUHMHM. Naru nodded and closed her eyes tight. You'll feel some pain, and once it frees from your body, that's when you'll really feel it, but it'll be over quickly. I'd rather this be in a more sterile environment, but we'll make do. Naru laid back and closed her eyes and quickly latched onto Jiraiya's hand when he touched her own. Tsunade sighed before she allowed the blue chakra to shine over her 2 fingers and watched as it vibrated and took a sharp edge to it. 1 dash. Don't count. Naru piped up. She nodded before letting the chakra touch Naru's skin and disappear into it. Naru jolted with a yelp before relaxing as Tsunade poked around. She winced and hunched before letting out a gasp and arching up. Naru! Jiraiya barked as the girl began to convulse in front of them. Her eyes rolled up and she began gagging and foaming at the mouth. Tsunade yanked back and quickly poured green chakra into her chest. Naru cried out in pain, clutching at her stomach. Tsunade pulled free and snarled at the black mark that appeared above her womb. A snake curled around a coma mark. Naru heaved for air before falling back to the bed and curling up. Bastard. A seal, what to prevent someone from doing this? Shizun questioned. Jiraiya nodded before he stroked Naru's head. Naru whimpered before erupting into a fit of sobs and launched up running to the bathroom and began gagging and coughing. Tsunade, if I suppress the seal, can you kill it? Jiraiya whispered. She shook her head no. I don't know what he did to her body and I can't risk killing it and killing her. She huffed before walking in and pulling her hair back. I'm scared. Naru whined and leaned into her arms. Tsunade gently hushed her and rocked her gently. We won't leave you, okay? I'll be right by your side for all of it. Naru gave a watery smile and nodded her head. Tsunade ushered Naru to the bed again and fixed the blanket around her. I need a drink, she grumbled and huffed. I'm sorry. Naru squeaked. No, not you honey, I'm angry at Orochimaru for this. You're too young to be experiencing this and I could kill him, it's not you. Alright, Jiraiya stood drawing their attention. Naru, we're out of options. First I'm going to place a suppressant seal on his so it will dampen whatever hold he put on you, then in the morning I'm going back to Leaf and telling Hiruzen. Naru opened her mouth to protest before Jiraiya held his hand up. We need him to be in the loop so he can support us. I'll explain you're not comfortable being in the village. It'll be okay, Shizun whispered and touched her hand. Okay, I guess. Jiraiya had Naru reveal her stomach where the seal was still visible. He painted seals along the mark, flew through hand signs, and pressed over the mark. They watched the ink spin and move forward, encircling the mark and causing it to fade away into her skin. They ordered 2 extra bedrolls and got some rest. Naru had the least tossing and turning, her mind tied between flashbacks and worrying about Hiruzen in the morning. Jiraiya tugged his vest on and huffed as he looked at Naru, who picked at her broken nails. I'll be back in a few hours. Naru, get some food and rest. Tsunade, please dash. You don't have to say it, I got her. She held her hand up, stopping his plea. He smiled before exiting the room. Jiraiya walked quickly back to the village but found his steps slower as he approached the Hokage tower. He stopped just outside the door, let out a slow breath, and knocked. Enter. He opened the door and found Kakashi standing in the room. He let out a small groan and cursed his luck. Jiraiya? I thought you were on a journey with Naru. Hiruzen questioned. Kakashi stared at the Sannin waiting with Hiruzen. I need to speak with you, privately. Hiruzen arched his brow before nodding. Kakashi, I'll allow him to learn more about the clan, just keep him in line. Yes sir, he nodded and looked to Jiraiya. Is Naru okay? I tried to meet with her after the exams but she didn't respond. She's stressed but I got her. Kakashi nodded slowly before leaving the office. Privacy please, Jiraiya said. Hiruzen nodded and activated the privacy barrier around the office to prevent any bystanders who might choose to listen in on private meetings. What's going on, Jiraiya? Your whole demeanor is off. Hiruzen squinted at the man, who gave a nod of agreement. It's been an intense 2 days. He rubbed under his forehead protector and let out a chuckle. This will not be easy to say or hear, but I need you to understand. Hiruzen straightened in his chair and motioned for the man to continue. Naru found me early yesterday and informed me that she went through something bad during the Forest of Death. She finished quickly with her teen dash. Orochimaru was in the exams on a mission. Hiruzen took in a breath. He found the team and from what she explained is looking for a new vessel and had made his mind up to create his perfect vessel. He did so by knocking out her teammates and raping Naru and implanting seed inside of her. Hiruzen let out a strangled noise. She's pregnant, she found me, told me, and I took her to Tsunade. Hiruzen stared at the man, his jaw slack and quivering slightly. Tsunade confirmed that she can sense the fetus inside her and due to a seal Orochimaru put on her, we can't destroy the fetus without killing Naru. Hiruzen let out a gag before he vomited into the trash can by his desk. Jiraiya looked away listening to the man gag and cough. Bring her. Bring her back now. He rasped, wiping his lips. I can't do that, Hiruzen glared at Jiraiya. Naru is terrified of being in this village while pregnant, fearing what someone may do to her or Orochimaru coming back. I plan to travel with her during the pregnancy and keep her safe, so is Tsunade. I don't understand, why would he do this? Orochimaru has always been after immortality, combining DNA of multiple clans and people. He can make that perfect long-lasting body, especially with the longevity of an Uzumaki. She's a child. Hiruzen yelled and punched the desk. Jiraiya gave a nod. Oh Naru, Hiruzen whispered, let out a sob and covered his face, shaking his head. I'm sorry to tell you this, Jiraiya whispered. I've tried to protect her and I failed. I couldn't imagine something like this would. Ugh. He looked out of the window. She left her apartment ready for an extended absence, key under the mat. I'll care for it, Hiruzen nodded with a hand wave. I just can't dash. No one could imagine this, but I'm protecting her and so will Tsunade. We won't let anything else happen to her. Jiraiya sighed. I knew you would need to be put in the loop for her absence with the Chunin exams, and if we need any assistance you're in the know. He waved his hand. I'm heading back to them, we plan to head out later tonight. Hiruzen clenched his fist and nodded. Keep me up to date and tell her I'm sorry. I will, she'll appreciate you being on her side, Hiruzen nodded. I guess I'll see you when I see you, old man. Hiruzen nodded and watched him walk out of the office. Hiruzen spotted his secretary bringing him a stack of papers. No more today, and don't allow anyone else in here. She paused, then nodded and shut the door. Hiruzen let out a shaky breath before he began to sob quietly. Week 21. Week 21. Nara gagged and coughed as she sat hunched over the toilet, sweat dripped along her face. Tsunade rubbed her back as she pulled up and groaned. I hate this, the smell of ramen is making me puke and it's not fair. Nara whined and dug the heel of her hands into her eyes. It comes with a baby. Not like I asked for it, Nara sneered and stood shakily, her stomach noticeably swollen. I know, but something good can come from this, Naru. I know it's not fair, but I believe you'll come to love that child. Nara hummed and walked out of the bathroom. Where are we going anyways? We've been mindlessly traveling fire and grass for weeks now. Tsunade smiled as she knew the girl was going through a flux of pain and hormones, and it was progressively making her more and more irritable. Right now, we're moving around, but Jiraiya should be looking for a place you can safely give birth so there are no hiccups during or after. Nara nodded and slid back into her seat. Right now this is the time when we need to be careful as miscarriages happen easily. If I'm honest, never mind. Naru began, then stopped looking away. I know you still don't want the baby, Naru, but it may not seem that way from your perspective right now, but in time I think you'll love it. Naru shrugged her shoulders. Jiraiya groaned as he scanned the map to find a good enough location for their stay until Naru was ready to give birth. What are you even looking for? Naru asked as she pushed the bowl away, trying not to breathe in the smell. We need a secure and solitary location for your birth, a place Tsunade can coach you and a place I can ward and hold your seal. Do you think it'll be a repeat of my parents? That's just it, I don't want it to. The seal slipped that night due to her struggling during birth. Her seals were perfect, but the strain of labor weakened them and Kyubi took the opportunity to break free, and no doubt if it happens again he'll try to escape. And I'll die. Naru finished. Jiraiya nodded and went back to looking at the maps and information. He clenched his fists at those 3 words. The last thing he could handle was losing another student. Once we leave this outpost tomorrow, we'll be heading to a larger city. I'll call in a favor to use their hospital facilities and we'll give you a proper checkup, Tsunade said. Nara nodded her head and looked down at her stomach, and gnawed her lip. You three rest up and I'll be back by morning. Jiraiya stood gathering his papers. Where dash? I need to see what other information I can find. Rest up. Naru frowned at the Sannin, who left quickly. I think it's hard for him to think about something happening to you, Shizun said. Especially under these circumstances. I guess. 000. Jiraiya swirled the small glass of amber liquid as he continued to read. The sun set long ago and he hadn't left the small bar filled with loud chatter and laughter. He rubbed his eyes with a groan and pushed them back, looking out of the window at the full moon. Are you sure you don't need me? I can dash. I promise sensei, I got the seal, nothing will happen. I'm just a toad, summon away Minato, I mean it. The young man grunted with a nod and grinned at his sensei before he looked over at his wife, who was reading a book out loud and rubbing her extended stomach. Next time you see me, I'll have your goddaughter in hand. Jiraiya chuckled and rubbed his head. Good luck. His hand slipped and knocked over the glass, spilling the liquid. He mumbled a curse, trying to mop up the drink as it stained his maps and paper. Want a refill? The young waitress asked as she used a hand towel to mop the rest. No, I'm good, thanks. Planning a trip? Of sorts. A beautiful place is Snow. It's so quiet and uncrowded, and in the spring it warms a little, but it's beautiful. She smiled, remembering a fond memory. It may be what we're looking for, thanks for the idea. Jiraiya gathered his things and left a tip. He slipped into the dark room, listening to their snoring. He looked at the bed and gasped, finding it empty. He swirled around and heaved a sigh, finding her leaning against the window. Why are you up? Can't sleep, she whispered. He sighed and slid down, sitting next to her. What if something happens? I always accepted being a ninja, we could die at any time, but with this I don't think I'm okay with it. Naru, before you even come close to death I'll be there. I'll die before you do. Naru gave him a shaky smile and then looked out to the moon. I wonder if they're ashamed that I dash, she ended with a sigh and rubbed her face. The last thing they'd feel is ashamed of you. I bet they're proud you're being strong through this. I guess. I'm going back to bed, good night. She stood and shuffled back to her bed. Jiraiya sighed, watching as she fell asleep, and then he found his way to bed, checking on his spy toads once more before falling into a fitful sleep. Okay Minato, you will handle Kushina's seal. I have 6 Umbu members, Taji for medical aid, and my wife Biwako who can coach. Yes sir, Minato nodded at Hiruzen, who came after Kushina's water broke that morning. Do you need more than that? No sir, I can handle the seal, I've studied it extensively. Alright, good luck tonight. Thank you, sir. Minato's grin grew as he watched his previous Hokage leave his house. 000. Arg. It hurts Tebane. Kushina's voice screeched in the night, echoing through the halls of the training grounds. Push Kushina. Biwako ordered. I'm trying. She sobbed. I've never heard Kushina cry out in pain, is she okay? Minato asked shakily as he held his hand towards Kushina's stomach. She's fine. Stay on guard. Biwako snapped at the young man, who flinched. But dash. You're yandere. Get a grip. Biwako snarled, fixing him with a glare. Most men would have dropped dead from pain like this. Hang in there Kushina, he whispered. Kushina continued screaming and pushing as they coached her through her contractions. Minato stood ready to spring into action if her seal even twitched, but also held his wife's hand. I can see the head Kushina, a little more. Biwako called out. Kushina curled and screamed as she pushed with all her might. She gasped, throwing back as her seal pulsed and began to glow and unwrap. Minato cursed and held his hand out to the seal, pouring chakra into the seal, which halted the movement. Is everything okay? I got the seal, it began to open, Kyuubi is pushing against it. Minato frowned. This is almost over, one good push, and your daughter will be here. You got this, Kushina, Minato whispered. She huffed for air as a contraction started and they ordered her to push. She curled with a push and screamed with all her might. She's here. A baby wail began to echo in the open room. Kushina let out a sob and fell backward huffing for air. Tears slipped down her cheeks as the baby continued to scream and cry. She's here, Minato sobbed, wiping at his face. Biwako walked forward with the baby and jerked it as Minato reached for her. The mother holds the baby first. Minato pouted but smiled as Biwako knelt to Kushina, who looked at her and cried. My little Naru. She whispered. Let's get this finished and get mom and baby back to the village. Biwako said. Kushina gasped, arching up as the seal exploded, red chakra swishing about the room. One slammed into Taji, throwing her against the wall and the floor. Kushina! Minato yelled, wincing as the chakra burst created a strong current of wind. Kushina screamed as her eyes shifted to red and more chakra bubbled up and around her body. Seal! Minato yelled, slamming his hand down on the seal. His chakra spread around the seal. Kushina gasped for air, her eyes rolled up in her head. The chakra roared loudly in anger and slammed into the young father, throwing him back. Biwako screamed as a tail stabbed her stomach inches from the screaming baby. Naru, Kushina whispered and tried to will the shackles around Kyubi again, who roared at her and sprung from binds. Red chakra formed into a large fox head that grinned and continued to grow. Biwako gagged as she lifted in the air with the baby. Her strength gave way and Naru slipped free and tumbled to the ground. Naru! Kushina screamed. Minato sprung into action, disappearing from his spot and reappearing with Naru in his arms, chakra making him stick to the wall. 3 chakra tails swiped toward the young father. He glared at the chakra before disappearing and letting them slam into the spot he stood. Minato Naru! Kushina screamed. Minato appeared in a dark home. He huffed for air and sighed heavily as he shifted his daughter in his arms, setting her gently down on the bed and covering her up. I'm sorry, I have to go save your mother, I'll be right back. He whispered and kissed her head before disappearing again. Kushina let out a cry as the red chakra finally pulled from her body. She collapsed with a whimper as the building crumbled from the giant fox that roared into the night. He turned his head and sneered at his jailer, who gasped for air and shot him a murderous glare. TSK, still alive. He snarled before raising his paw and brought it down where the mother lay. Minato appeared on the top of the trees holding his weak wife. Kyubi growled at the man before he vanished again. The beast turned to the village in the distance and rushed towards it. Minato, Kushina rasped. The man appeared back in the quiet home, and he gently laid her on the bed next to her daughter. He's going to destroy the village, why? Shoo, just stay with your daughter. He gently said and covered her up. Kushina whimpered and nuzzled the baby. I'll be right back. Minato turned away from the scene, yanked his haori on, and tied his hatayate on his head, grabbing his kunai, and disappeared again. Kyubi roared as he smashed buildings and roads. Bodies flew in the air as screams echoed. Fires erupted all around. With a swipe of a tail, a tornado erupted and tore through streets. He snarled as jutsu and weapons hit him with little effect. A chakra presence drew his attention to the Hokage mountain. A lone figure stood atop the head. He bared his teeth and opened his jaws wide. A black ball of chakra grew between his teeth before closed his jaws on the ball and shot it towards the young Hokage. I won't allow you, Minato said, running through hand signs and letting a transportation seal absorb the bomb and make it hit the mountains far away. Minato glared at the beast and flashed away again to find Hiruzen. Kyubi opened his jaws again, building up the chakra for a Bija bomb. Kyubi snarled as a giant toad landed on him and pinned him to the ground. Minato stood on the toad's head before he jumped down to Hiruzen, and he informed the previous Hokage of his plan to transport the beast from the village and seal him away. Hiruzen turned to protest, but Minato disappeared and so did Kyubi. Minato took the beast? A Jounin asked. Hiruzen grit his teeth, turning to the distance, and took off without a word. Minato cried out as hit the grass, his body weakened from the chakra usage. The wailing of his daughter pushed him up. Kushina held her daughter as the building they were in had been destroyed in the blast of Kyubi landing there. Minato had pulled them out mere milliseconds before the beast landed. Kushina, are you okay? Minato pushed up shakily and stumbled. Gotta put a barrier up, he huffed. Kushina looked at the father sadly. Kyuubi growled as he pushed up. She glared at the beast before chakra chains shot from her back and wrapped tightly around the beast. Kushina dash. I got this, she huffed. Dark bags stood out against her pale skin. He looked at her sadly. Their baby began to cry at the disturbance. Both parents looked at her. We woke her up, she chuckled. Kushina. Minato whispered. I'll take Kyuubi with me into death, so that the time between when he is revived will be delayed. That's all I can manage right now. With my remaining chakra, she rasped and looked at Minato. Thank you, for everything up till now. She smiled. Minato looked at her, tears built and slipped down his cheeks. Kushina, you're the one who made me yondaime. You made me your man. And you made me this child's father. And yet I'm useless. He cried. Kushina smiled. Minato, don't look so sad. I'm happy, she said, most of all if I were to imagine myself alive and our future together as a family of 3 then. I can't see us being anything but happy. Minato let out a sob. If I were allowed just one regret, I wish I could see her grow up. She looked down at the baby. She bounced back to sleep. Kushina, there is no need for you to die for Kyuubi. Preserve what little of your chakra you have left for your reunion with Naru. Minato said, drying his eyes. Huh? I'm going to seal the rest of your chakra into Naru, with the 8-sign seal, he said. And I'll take Kyuubi with me by the Reaper Death Seal. But that jutsu results in the caster's death. She protested. It'll be alright, if you take him into death, the Biju balance will be upset, and with this I can permanently seal half of his chakra away and the rest I will seal inside Naru, Kushina gasped. Before Kushina could protest, Minato quickly ran through multiple signs. He cried out. A tear in his shirt showed a seal on his stomach and Kyuubi dropped to less than half of his size. Why? I would rather see you grow up with Naru. You did not need to die. Kushina yelled at the young father. For what? The Biju balance, the country? For the village. Why do you have to sacrifice yourself for my sake? Kushina screamed at him. Kushina, it's a shinobi's duty to do what it takes for his village and home, and besides, even if I stayed alive I'd be lost without you. I know we don't have much time left with her, but I want you to tell her things I can't. That's a mother's role. Minato said between breaths. It's my duty as a father to die for her. Minato ran through hand signs much slower. An altar bed appeared and he gently laid the baby on the cushion. Kyuubi growled, eyeing the scene, realizing they intended to seal him into the infant. He growled low and raised his paw, bringing it towards the infant to kill her. Minato glared, seeing the beast. He threw his body forward the same time Kushina did. Blood flew through the air as they were impaled on the beast's claw. I said it was my duty to die as her father. Minato gasped, glaring at his wife. Their mixed blood splattered on the infant's stomach, but she remained unharmed. It's my right as her mother as well. Kushina snapped back. He scowled at her. She smiled slightly before dropping her shoulders. Fine, this is the only fight you've ever won between us. She rasped. Thank you. Minato chuckled. Minato. Kushina. Hiruzen yelled, arriving outside the barrier and hitting the invisible dome. Minato bit his thumb, spilling more blood, and summoned a medium-sized toad that screamed at the scene. Whoa. Yondaime. Kyuubi? What's going on? He yelled. I'm putting the seal to Kyuubi's cage on you. Once I'm done you'll take yourself to Jiraiya and tell him what's going on. Minato ordered. The toad nodded and expanded his body, revealing he was like a giant scroll. Minato spelled out the intricate seals and nodded to the toad. He nodded and disappeared into a puff of smoke. Kushina, I don't have much time left. Tell her what you want to say. Kushina nodded, looking at her daughter. Naru, don't be a picky eater and eat healthy. Make sure you don't stay up late and you get plenty of rest. Make friend, you don't need tons, just a few good ones you can trust. Make sure you study hard. Even if something doesn't go right, don't get depressed. At school, make sure you respect your teachers and older classmates. Be careful with your money. Don't drink until you're 21. When it comes to love, make sure you pick a good one, like I did with your father, someone who will always be there for you. Minato smiled gently, listening to the woman lecture the sleeping baby. Also be wary of Jiraiya, he can be difficult and not the best role model, but he'll always be there for you. Try to build yourself up no matter what. Tears slipped down her face, she gasped for air. Things will get really hard for you, Naru, but don't give up hope, try to build yourself up no matter what. Take good care of yourself, make sure you have a dream, it will help you out a lot, and have the confidence to back up that dream. There is so much more that I would want to tell you, mother to daughter. I want to be with you longer. She glanced back. Minato, I took all your times, I'm sorry. It's okay, all I can say to you, Naru, as your father I agree to what your mom said. He winked at her before he finished the signs. The area lit up with a white light and wind whipped around. Hiruzen grunted as the dome disappeared. The night was filled with the baby's screams. He rushed forwards to the baby and held her as he promised to care for her to Kushina before she died with a smile on her face. 000. Naru walked slowly into the large hospital. Tsunade touched her back and led her forwards. The woman made arrangements as they entered the large village to be able to use their facility for the young mom-to-be. Climb up, Sunda patted the bed. Naru got up and laid back as Tsunade thanked the nurse who brought in the ultrasound machine. Alright, lift your shirt and we'll get a look at your baby. She smiled. Naru folded her shirt up and gasped as Tsunade spread the cold gel on her stomach before pressing the transducer gently on her stomach and moved it around. Look, Tsunade turned the screen. Naru looked at the gray static screen. She frowned, cocking her head in confusion. Right here is your baby. Tsunade pointed to a shape on the screen that moved as she pressed slightly harder. Naru let out a gaspy expel of air. Her lip quivered as she stared at the screen. And here we go, Tsunade said. A rapid thudding sounded. Naru gasped and began to cry as she touched the screen. Jiraiya! Naru yelled, rushing into the room. The man jumped as she rushed in and shoved a paper in his face. It's a girl. She nearly squealed. He smiled, taking the ultrasound photo of the growing baby. He smiled and gave it back to her. He ruffled her hair and stood. Write to Hiruzen, I'll send it via Toads. Naru walked to the table and began to write quickly. She changed her mind? He whispered. As soon as she listened to the heartbeat, she completely crumbled. She's finally realized the beauty in the baby. Jiraiya smiled with a nod. Have you decided our location? Snow, remote, and hopefully the last place he'll look for her. I'll begin prepping the seals now. Once we arrive, I'll meet with the hospital to arrange a room after the birth to care for her. One thing for sure. I want a DNA test done, maybe we'll figure out what he intended to create and go from there. She's happy right now, and that's all that matters. Birth night. Birth night. Naru shivered as she walked back inside the house they called home for the past 3 months. She pulled her gloves off and rubbed them before shedding her jacket and shoes. She looked down at her distended stomach under her shirt and smiled. Have a nice walk? Shizune asked, holding sheets in her arms. Naru nodded. Despite being here for months, I'm not used to the cold yet. Tsunade's voice called from the hallway, making Shizune give a silent chuckle before walking down the hall. Everything okay? This crib is being difficult. She snarled, pushing the wood to the side. Naru laughed as she looked around the room they were making, the nursery. The walls were a cream color with white trim and a big window that gave a beautiful view of the mountain peaks. A plush rocking chair sat in the corner and a half-built crib lay on the ground with Tsunade seated on the ground glaring at the wood. I can try. No, I'll make Jiraiya do it when he comes home. Where is he at anyway? Naru sat in the chair before taking a blanket and folding it slowly. He's finishing up the seals of the location we found for the birth. He wants extra wards and seals to ensure nothing will happen. Naru gasped, touching her stomach and sending a glare down at it. She's kicking more and more, she's eager to meet her mom. Tsunade smiled. What else do I need before she comes? Changing table, pumps, pads, small things but necessary items. Jiraiya sighed as he walked in later that day, shaking off the snow and shedding his jacket. Finished? Yeah, I have multiple wards around the building and 4 styles of Uzumaki ceilings. Plus I added a seal to my own body that will connect with hers and help give control if needed. I'm mostly confident that the seal will hold. Thank you, Jiraiya. Naru smiled at him. He ruffled her hair gently before quickly being yanked into the nursery and ordered to assemble the crib. 000. These are cute. Naru cooed at the various onesies laid out. Look. Little bunnies. Jiraiya laughed, giving an eye roll as he stood with the heaped basket. I think you have enough. You hush. Tsunade appeared holding more items. And who is going to carry all this home, huh? You have shadow clone jutsu. Tsunade waved a dismissive hand to him. He scoffed with a smile, turning to find Naru walking down an aisle. Naru hummed quietly as her fingers danced along the clothes. She shivered and turned, feeling like she was being watched. Her eyes slowly scanned the aisles and racks before a blur moved closer, making her jolt. She began to call for her godfather before it died on her tongue. She let out a shaky breath and covered her mouth as she stared at waist-length black hair on a slim build wearing black pants and a cream top. They walked down the adjacent aisle and disappeared. Naru shook her head, going back to looking at the clothes. Her fingers danced along the shelves and jolted as a sliver of wood jammed into her skin. She muttered a curse, pulling at the piece. A movement drew her attention again and she watched the long-haired figure move closer again. Naru stepped forward, trying to peer at their face. A tremor traveled her spine. She swallowed the bile in her throat as she wrung her hands together. Naru? Tsunade's voice called. Naru whimpered as she walked closer to the person. Her breath came out in huffs, and sweat slipped down her face and neck. Naru? Tsunade's voice echoed far away in her brain. Naru gave a small cry as a sharp jolt of pain raced through her lower stomach and back. Naru! Tsunade grabbed her arm, making her yelp in shock. I've been calling you, what's wrong? I saw. I swear I saw, gasp. Naru stuttered, pointing down the aisle to the long-haired figure. What's going on? Jiraiya asked, appearing and looking at the person. He dropped the basket, stomped up, grabbed their shoulder, and yanked them around to find a woman looking at him fearfully. I'm sorry, I thought you were someone else. I apologize. He bowed, she nodded, and began to reply before Naru cried out in pain. Naru! Tsunade yelped as the girl collapsed to the ground, holding her stomach. Jiraiya! What's happening? Naru cried and huffed for air. Take a deep breath, easy. Tsunade coached. What's happening? Naru whimpered. You got too worked up, you thought it was him, huh? She asked. Naru's lip quivered and she looked down. It's okay, it's understandable. Let's just get you home, okay? She pulled the girl up to her feet before letting out a small gasp. Naru glanced down, finding a small puddle at her feet, and her pants darkened. What? Your water just broke. Naru shook her head, confused, as Tsunade cupped her face. It's almost time to meet your daughter. 000. Naru took monitored breaths as they escorted her into the large cabin Jiraiya found and had warded. A bed lay in the middle of the room with a table and basin to the side with blankets and towels. Climb up, Tsunade helped her shimmy her pants down to the floor and lay back before covering her with a blanket. How's your contractions? Short, painful, I don't know, Naru whined. Shizune pulled the girl's hair up, tied it back, and adjusted the pillows. Tsunade washed her hands and walked up. I'm going to check how dilated you are, she coached. Jiraiya leaned against the far wall, watching as Tsunade and Shizune helped the girl through her contractions and checked her cervix. 5 hours ticked by slowly as Naru sobbed through the spasms and pain. Shizune wiped her sweat from her head and neck as Tsunade checked one more time. Okay, you're at 10 centimeters. So it's time? 'Cause I can't handle these contractions, Databeo. Naru whimpered, arching slightly. Tsunade smiled and nodded her head. It's time to push when I tell you. Tsunade lifted her shirt, revealing her stomach, the black QB seal prominent on her skin. Jiraiya rolled his sleeves up and stood on the left side, nodding to Tsunade, who rolled the blanket up to Naru's knees. Ready? She asked them both. Jiraiya nodded and Naru nodded rapidly and laid her head back. Naru, I need you to do long breaths in through your nose, a double pant, then a long out through your mouth during your contractions. It's like a hee-hee-hoo, Shizune added. Naru nodded, giving her own, which Tsunade nodded at. I should summon Jiraiya, Jiraiya muttered, making a sign. Naru stared in shock as a toad practically climbed out of the Sannin's mouth and nodded. It's time, stay ready. The toad grunted with a nod and moved to the side. Push! Tsunade ordered. Naru curled up and yelled as she strained and pushed before collapsing back, huffing for air. Tears slipped from her eyes. You'll have to push harder than that, Naru. I know. She cried and fisted the sheets. Push! Naru repeated, curling up and screaming as she strained and pushed through the contractions. Naru gasped as she fell back, the seal glowed, and Jiraiya grunted as he held his hand out to the seal and watched it dull again. Is he pushing? Yes, Jiraiya grunted out. Come on, Tsunade ordered. Naru screamed as she pushed. You're getting closer, keep trying. Naru whimpered, shaking her head, and let out a sob. It hurts. I know it does, Naru, but you're so close. Jiraiya encouraged. Your baby is close, Naru, keep trying. Naru cried out as she strained. I can see the head. Naru gasped as her eyes shifted to red and chakra began to bubble from her seal. No, you don't. Jiraiya snarled. Chakra glowed over his hand and touched the seal. He grunted as he felt Kyuubi roar and push at the seal. Jiraiya? Hurry! He whispered. Tsunade turned and ordered Naru to push. There's the forehead, nose, mouth, chin. She yelled out. Shizune stood ready with a towel for the baby. This is the hardest part, the shoulders are next. She supplied and felt around the neck, ensuring the umbilical cord wasn't wrapped around her throat. Kyuubi snarled and rammed his shoulder into the gates over and over. Jiraiya focused and appeared before the beast and held his hand out. The fox growled at him. You won't escape. The fourth said the same. He snarled and threw himself against the gates again and again. Naru whimpered in pain at the hits. This is what Kushina went through too. Shizune thought, watching the girl struggle through the labor and the seal. Shoulders are out. Tsunade yelled with a laugh. Naru whimpered, gasping for air before collapsing to the mattress. A baby's cry echoed in the room. Naru gasped, staring at the ceiling as the cries echoed. I'm cutting the umbilical cord, Sunda supplied as Shizune held the baby in the white blanket before gently transferring the baby to Tsunade, who walked up to Naru's head and bent down, holding the wiggling bundle in her arms. Congratulations, you have a healthy baby girl. Naru sobbed audibly and reached her arm out before arching up. The seal snapped and began to spin, slowly opening. Jiraiya cursed and slapped his hands down on the seal. Naru cried out as chakra bubbled on her stomach but stopped at Jiraiya's chakra. Naru, focus your chakra back on the seal. Naru nodded. He let out a sigh as the seal glowed and began to wreck loose. Jiraiya. The toad jumped into action, unraveling his seal body. Jiraiya touched the square on the scroll. Ink spread along his skin and down his arms. At the same time, Naru whimpered before her head lolled to the side and her skin turned pale. Naru! Tsunade yelled. She gave the baby to Shizune and ran to her legs to find the bed covered in blood. Tsunade? Jiraiya cried out. She's hemorrhaging. She needs to get to the hospital. She held her hands out, letting green chakra cover them and seep into the girl. Her seal is opening. Naru! Tsunade yelled. Naru whimpered as she lay in front of Kyuubi's seal. The water around her thrashed with his movements. She gasped and choked as it splashed around her face and grew deeper. Kyuubi's roar echoed, and Naru struggled to move. Gotta stop him, she thought before burning chakra seeped along and began to cover her body. No. Suddenly 2 hands scooped her up and pressed her to a hard chest as Kyuubi's chakra exploded away from her. She moaned as she looked up, finding golden hair that framed a chiseled face with electric blue eyes. He glared at the menacing figure of Kyuubi before looking down at her and smiling. There's my girl, he whispered. Dad? She squeaked. He scooped her up in his arms and held her gently. Fourth. Come over here, I'll shred you to pieces. Kyuubi screamed, ramming the gates. No thanks, now hush. A clone appeared, held his hands on Gates and nodded. Let's go someplace quieter. He whispered and snapped his fingers. Nara gasped as they appeared in a light room. He lowered them to the ground and smiled. Dad! She cried out and threw her arms around his neck. He chuckled and returned the hug as she sobbed into his shoulder. I'm sorry, I'm so sorry. He whispered and twirled her hair around his finger. I'm sorry, Nara replied and pulled back. What do you have to be sorry about? Are you ashamed of me? That I ended up having a baby? She squeaked. Never. He cupped her face, pressed his forehead against hers and stared into her eyes. I'm proud of how grown up you are. Nara pulled back and wiped her face. Naru. Tsunade's voice called. Let me close the seal, we'll have a few minutes to talk but they need to get you to the hospital. Nara nodded and watched as Minato focused. She gasped as he touched her seal and twisted his hand clockwise and her seal snapped closed once more. She gasped and held her stomach. I also removed that pesky seal of his. Thank you, Dad, I've wanted to meet you for so long and now I don't know what to say. She chuckled and wiped tears from her eyes. You don't have to say anything. He hugged her once more. She smiled, squeezing him tight. How are you here? I sealed my chakra and some of your mother's chakra into you for an incident like this. If your seal came open we would appear and stop it. Nara nodded and smiled. Although Jiraiya had a good grip on the seal, all the energy that goes to a baby makes it much more difficult to maintain. Tell Sensei he did a good job though, he's sensitive like that. Nara laughed and nodded her head. I'm sorry for everything you've gone through. You're so young. He whispered into her hair and kissed her head. She smiled and toyed with his Haori. My time is almost up, he supplied. She held him tight once more. I don't want you to leave me, Nara cried. I won't leave you, I'm always with you. But you need to return and see your daughter. He raised her head, smiling at her. She nodded her head and closed her eyes as he began to fade away until she was left alone before the area disappeared and she fell back with a yell. Nara gasped as she came to. Machines beeped rapidly as she came to. She glanced over, finding Tsunade laying her head on the bed. She sat up and let out a cry of relief and hugged the girl. Thank goodness. What happened? You hemorrhaged. The seal opened then suddenly closed, so we were able to rush you here. Any longer and you wouldn't have made it. Is she up? Jiraiya rushed in and let out a sigh of relief. Thank you, Jiraiya, she smiled. And Dad says he's proud of your seal usage. Jiraiya cocked his head and shook it. Dad? Yeah. He appeared and stopped Kyubi from releasing the whole way. We talked for a few minutes. She smiled. He put his chakra in my seal just in case. Jiraiya let out a noise before rubbing his head. I need a drink. He plopped down in the chair. Did the baby dash? A quiet fuss sounded just then. Someone wants to check on her mommy, Tsunade said, turning to the hospital crib and lifting the sleeping bundle. Nara gasped as she sat up slowly before taking the bundle in her arms. She took in her pink skin, chubby cheeks, and onyx hair. She's beautiful, Nara whispered. Did you ever pick a name? Nara nodded. Misaki. It's beautiful and so is she. Tsunade squeezed her shoulder. Smile, Jiraiya said, holding a camera. Nara smiled as he took her photo. For the old man, he waved the square picture as it developed. Thank you. Are you up to writing? Nara nodded. Tsunade laid Misaki down in the crib once more and watched Nara write a short letter and fold it. I'll get it to Shizune, she's heading to leave. Why? Both exchanged a look. Don't get upset, but I want to run her DNA against records, to see exactly what he is planning. Hopefully, it'll give us an answer. We swabbed her mouth while you were out. Oh, I understand, Nara nodded and looked at her baby. I wonder if... DNA. Hiruzen looked up as a knock echoed on his door. He frowned, not expecting any visitors at such a late hour. Enter, the door squeaked open, and Shizune walked in and gave a bow. Hiruzen perked up with a smile. Shizune, it's been some time. Evening Lord Hokage, I bring a letter and news. Naru had her child just over 2 weeks ago. Was it a safe delivery? It was a close call with a hemorrhage, but she pulled through and she and the baby are healthy and recovering in the hospital. She placed the envelope on the desk. I was also sent to perform a DNA test per Jiraiya and Tsunade's concern. I'm not sure how long it will take. You have my express permission to access all the village DNA files. If you need more, don't hesitate. She nodded before exiting the office. Hiruzen opened the paper and held the photo of Naru holding her baby. Although her face showed exhaustion, her eyes still held the joy he knew so well. Hi old man. I just gave birth today and boy was it painful, but I pulled through. I'll have to tell you in person what happened cause it's hard to believe, but no, I'm okay and safe. Jiraiya took a picture which I sent. Her name is Misaki, and it felt right after all of this. I'd write more but I'm exhausted. I'll talk to you soon. Love, Naru. Hiruzen opened his top drawer and set the letter and photo with the other letters from her. He smiled as he gathered an allowance, adding extra and a note to spoil the baby as much as she could. 000. This is, Shizune muttered to herself as she read the reports before her. She glanced left and right of the empty room before quickly folding them up, slipping them into her bag, clearing the screen and exiting. Neither will believe these results, I hardly believe them myself. She mused, ensuring the allowance and letter from Hiruzen was with her, and she headed out of the village, beginning her journey back to Snow. Naru smiled as she held the bottle of milk for Misaki, who gulped the liquid. The young infant was quite the eater and quite vocal if her food was even 10 seconds delayed. Tsunade wiped the pump and watched as Naru smiled at her baby. She loves her wholeheartedly now, she mused. I'm back. Shizune announced as she opened the front door and shook off the snow. The woman traveled nearly non-stop to deliver the news she discovered. What did you find out? Jiraiya asked first. Shizune let out a huff and held out the papers. You won't believe it, I ran it twice to be sure, and still. What? Naru asked. Tsunade read the paper with Jiraiya reading over her shoulder. Tsunade stuttered and looked at Shizune, who nodded. This is, how would he obtain this? What? Naru snarled before flinching as Misaki gave a protested cry. Her DNA has a 98% match with the Uchihas. Like Sasuke? Naru fought to not cringe at the thought while wondering exactly how he got the DNA. No, I don't see his name, I see multiple others of the clan, even Itachi's, Jiraiya muttered, flipping the papers. How? Naru asked, looking at Tsunade. Well, it's not impossible, but with extensive workings, other forms such as blood or bones, stem cells can be extracted and made into a synthetic sperm. She said. And if he's after the perfect body, the Sharingan is something he'd want. Plus add in the longevity of the Uzumaki with the eyes of a Uchiha. Tsunade inclined her head. So, maybe the night the clan was eliminated he got it? Naru suggested. Umbu was supposed to handle the cleanup, but he could have easily snuck in and taken what he could get his hands on. He could have been after eyes, but failing there he could have settled and chosen to make a Uchiha. Jiraiya said and pinched the bridge of his nose. Naru laid Misaki in her crib before taking the papers and reading the report of her DNA, his, and the list of multiple Uchihas. Her eyes stopped on Itachi's name and lingered. This is dangerous, Jiraiya said. How so? Both clans are still sought after for past war incidents. If anyone were to find out a new Uchiha was born and outside of the village's protection, her life and yours would be in danger. Then we ensure she's safe, no matter what, Naru said and laid the paper down. 000. This is insane. Naru, listen to yourself. Jiraiya huffed, pinching the bridge of his nose. I am, you're not listening to me, she argued. I am, it's noble and I understand your thoughts. Clearly not, she interrupted. He has a right to know she exists. And you know I was dying to know of my family for years and was denied. I can't and more importantly won't do that to my daughter. So either help me track him down quickly or I'll do it myself. Why, Tsunade. Tell her she's crazy. The woman arched her brow, looked up from her book, and scoffed at the man. She sighed and put her book down. Jiraiya, you know as well as I that once Naru has her mind made up, nothing will change it. Plus it's her daughter, so it's her choice, help her or don't, like she said. Lotta help you are. He grumbled, looking at her and then at Naru, who stared at him. Fine, fine. I'll hunt him down and tell him. No, I will. This is my story to tell, find him, and once you do I'll go and bring him back if he wants. But Misaki is 4 months old and is with the people I trust most to keep her safe. She finished. On cue a fuss sounded from the nursery. Shizun stood and began to talk in a high voice to the baby. Well? Fine. He stood, grabbed his coat and walked out with a huff to summon his toads to begin searching for the elder Uchiha. It took Jiraiya 2 weeks to find the city where the elder Uchiha was located at the moment and began to help Naru pack. Naru kissed Misaki's head and smiled at her daughter, who stared up at her. Tsunade smiled, adjusting the baby in her arms. I'll be back soon, my love, she whispered, slung the pack on, and nodded. Wait. Jiraiya said. He bit his thumb and touched the ground, and a small toad with goggles on his head appeared and croaked at him. This is a summoning toad, he's also great at sensing chakra. So you'll be able to find him sooner, and when you're ready send him back to me and I can summon you both back to the port at least. Naru nodded, letting him drop the toad in her jacket pocket. The first sign of trouble use it, no hesitating. Alright, Naru smiled at the Sannin, who sighed with a nod. Your boat should be leaving the port in an hour. Naru nodded and turned away, wringing the strap as she looked back at her baby and struggled to continue while the guilt of leaving her ate her alive. Naru stared at the map Jiraiya marked with Itachi's locations, mostly staying in the borders of iron. So, this is gonna come as a shock, but you're technically a father. She muttered to herself as she paced back and forth. That sucks. A madman took your DNA and created life inside me, so, no, that's horrible, UGH. She fell back to her bed and huffed. This is so hard. She sat up and pulled out the pictures she decided to take of Misaki and smiled at the photos of her smiling, drinking milk, sleeping, and more. I'll be home soon, she whispered. 3 days later the boat docked in iron and Naru stepped off and took in a deep breath. Please still be around here, she prayed. Itachi's chakra is not far, the toad whispered. She nodded and began to walk through the town, looking at the sights and smells that reminded her a lot of home, and her heart clenched at the thought. She continued until she came to a dango shop where the toad informed her Itachi was there. She peered through the people before spotting a figure walking from the counter with a plate of dango. He wore a cloak that was red and black with clouds all over it and a straw hat on his head. She walked closer and glanced at people before taking in a deep breath. Itachi? He turned his head to her and arched a brow. Uzumaki Naru? She nodded her head. Do you need something? You could say that. I need to talk to you, if we can. He beckoned her out of the shop to a bench down the street where he sat down and motioned for her to follow before offering a dango, which she declined. So? This won't be easy to say, or get through, and I'm sorry if I ramble, I'm just very nervous. It's not easy to say. Is Sasuke okay? Yeah. I mean, I assume, I haven't been around him in over a year, but it's not about him, it's about me and you. He squinted at her before motioning for her to continue. It's kinda a long story, but I'll skip through it. She took in a deep breath and let it out. The Chunin exams came to Konoha and we were nominated as a team to participate, and we were going through it and passed the first exam and went through the second, which was a 5-day survival test. I'm aware, he said. I keep tabs on Sasuke, he supplied to her confusion. Okay, well, something happened in the exam to me. This is hard, she brushed her bangs up and sighed. I was raped, she said. Itachi blinked, his back stiffened and his hand clenched the plate. They knocked out Sasuke and Sakura and, she squirmed in her seat. It was Orochimaru who did it, Itachi let out a noise of anger. They paralyzed me and manually assaulted me. I didn't know at the time, but he injected synthetic sperm inside me, and if you couldn't put it together, I ended up pregnant because of this. I'm sorry, he muttered. I left with Jiraiya and Tsunade and went through with it. He put a seal on my body that prevented me from stopping the growth. She took in a deep breath. I gave birth on January 28th. I don't mean anything bad, what does this have to do with me? Unless you want my team to go after Dash. She shares your DNA. Itachi's face fell and the plate slipped out of his grip and shattered on the ground. We did a DNA test and she has a 98% match with multiple Uchihas, yours included. She dug in her pack holding out the DNA report that he took and read the words quickly before his shoulders sagged. It's a girl, she's beautiful and full of life, and well I wanted to find you and tell you because. I don't want anything, I want to be able to provide her with a family heritage of sorts. I can provide Uzumaki information but Uchiha? I can't do that. The Uchiha clan is cursed, did you know that? We all bear a curse. He muttered. Naru held out a photo that he had taken and looked at the baby with an unreadable expression. I don't know about a curse, it's none of my business. Regardless of that, she's an Uzumaki and an Uchiha. You and Sasuke are the last of the clan and if I can give her a little bit, I want to. So you would want me around her? Me? He looked at her with a pained face. Do you know what I've done? I don't know everything, and I know surrounding your clan is complicated, but she's part of your DNA and if you want to get to know her I won't stop you. Itachi's thumb rubbed the photo and he swallowed heavily before looking at her. Why? Because I feel what everyone has been told isn't the truth. He sighed heavily and handed her the paper and picture. I can take you to her, you can meet her and decide then. Itachi opened his mouth but nothing came out before he nodded. She beamed at him and stood up holding her hands out which he took confused as she nodded to the toad before both disappeared with a pop of smoke. Both appeared at the Land of Snow's dock. Itachi stumbled before releasing her hand and scowled. Warning, next time would be nice. Naru blushed and nodded her head. Jiraiya should dash. Naru. She turned to her godfather who pulled her in and sighed. I've been worried. He looked at Itachi who nodded to him which he returned. You're okay? He turned her head left and right and roved his eyes over her body quickly. Of course, thanks. She beckoned Itachi on as they walked through town and to their house where Tsunade paced in the living room and jolted as they walked inside. Welcome back, your daughter has not happy mommy was gone, she smiled. Naru smiled and pulled her shoes off, grabbing Itachi's arm and pulling him into the nursery where Misaki lay in her crib babbling towards Shizune who made faces at her. Hi my sweet, Naru leaned over making Misaki squeal and wiggle as she lifted her in her arms and bounced her. Itachi took in a breath as he looked at the onyx hair and fair skin. Naru turned and motioned for him to sit. He took a seat slowly as she passed the baby to him. He cradled her gently and looked at her face and a smile ghosted his face as he stared into her purple eyes. She stared at him before squealing and wiggling in his arms. He took her in wholly before he poked her chubby cheeks. Her hand grabbed his finger and held it, and a smile grew on his face as he sat still as Misaki relaxed in his arms holding his finger. Naru smiled at the scene and looked at Tsunade who winked at her. I never thought another Uchiha would be, let alone someone with my DNA, she's beautiful. Naru nodded her head. Like I said, I'd like her to know you, either as a friend or family, whatever you want, it's your call. She crouched down next to him. As far as I'm concerned she's my daughter, he said and looked at Naru and smiled. Naru beamed at him and nodded. Thank you, she whispered. Itachi turned back to the baby who was fighting sleep. And I know another Uchiha that will be ecstatic to know the clan can begin pure. Caution. He. The breathy huffs of the now 5-year-old girl as she pounced around in the freshly fallen snow from the night before. Be careful Misaki. AW mama. She threw a pout at her watchful mother who leaned against the tree. ICHO. It's time to come in, your face is red and that sneeze proves you're getting sick. It's just 'cause it's cold. She protested and wiped her drippy nose. Sides, I want to keep playing. She rolled her sleeves up and began pushing snow into a mound. Sigh. Well, if you stay out here and get worse, you won't get to participate in tonight's surprise. Naru tempted her in a sing-song voice, and the girl turned at the temptation. What surprise? Naru hummed in response and shrugged. Misaki heaved a dramatic sigh and stood up, brushing the snow from her clothes and hair. Misaki took her mother's hand and skipped back to the house and inside. Misaki grabbed a bag of rabbit food by the cage where her small white snow rabbit lay and filled her dish. "Hi there, Kiki, how are you? Did you sleep well?" she asked quietly as Naru began to make lunch. Misaki snorted up more snot and sighed as she smiled at Kiki. Tsunade came out from the hall and smiled. Oh, someone's sick," she teased. Misaki turned and scrunched her nose up at her godmother. "Nada." Misaki protested and wiped her nose again. Tsunade rolled her eyes. "It's 'cause of the cold outside." "Sure," Tsunade drawled. "Lunch," Naru called. "You make the best sandwiches," Misaki said with a mouthful of food. Naru sighed as Misaki wiggled in her seat. "What's my surprise?" "We're going to the winter festival in town tonight." "Really?" Her eyes lit up, and Naru nodded with a smile. "But you're taking a nap first." Misaki scowled and then nodded her head. "Will Daddy come too?" "I'm not sure. He may. I wrote to him, but I haven't heard anything. He's very busy, so don't be disappointed if he can't come." Naru wiped the counters after she put Misaki to bed. "She's a handful sometimes, isn't she?" Tsunade asked. Naru smiled and nodded her head. "I guess I know what I put the old man through at that age." She laughed. Both looked up at the knock on the door. Naru opened it and found Itachi standing there. An eye twitch and scowl on his face made her smile. "Are you okay?" She chuckled. "Hello." Obito out from behind Itachi. Naru jolted back and looked at Itachi. "He followed me," he muttered. "It's the winter festival." "Why, when Itachi said he was coming to take little Misaki to the winter festival, I had to come. I couldn't miss it." He chirped and walked in. Naru sighed with a chuckle, and Itachi grunted before entering. "She's taking a nap. You'll make her day. She was wondering if you'd come." Itachi smiled and nodded. "I'll wake her up," Obito proclaimed and rushed into the bedroom. "So you couldn't shake him?" Itachi heaved a heavy sigh. "Believe me, I tried." "Uncle Toby." Misaki's squeal echoed before she raced from the bedroom, seeing Itachi, who smiled at her. "Daddy." She jumped into Itachi's waiting arms and hugged him tight. "I knew you'd be here." "Hi, Misaki. Where's my hug?" Obito pouted, poking the girl. Itachi glared at his cousin before Misaki hugged him. Obito was introduced to Misaki a year after Itachi was and quickly fell for the baby, ecstatic like Itachi predicted to have a new Uchiha. He took the role of uncle and followed Itachi as often as possible to visit his niece. 0-0. That's a miss. The stand operator announced that Obito had missed the ring toss yet again. For a ninja, you'd think this would be an easy win, Itachi jabbed. Obito fixed a glare at him, and Itachi smirked as Misaki giggled behind her hand. "One more time," Obito announced, slapping more money down, and began the toss again. "Come on, Misaki." Itachi pulled the girl away and bought her a snack. Naru laughed as she talked to Itachi quietly and eyed Jiraiya as he tried to buy Tsunade a gift. I did it," Obito announced, shoving the large plush in Itachi's face, who huffed. "Used your Sharingan?" "Maybe," Obito rubbed his head. "Here you go, Misaki." "Misaki?" He looked for the girl, and Itachi whirled around, finding his daughter no longer next to him. "Misaki!" Naru yelped, her breathing erratic as she tried to spot her daughter in the crowd. "Misaki!" Obito pushed through the people, and Itachi went in the opposite direction with Naru in tow. Where could she have gone? Naru whimpered, pushing her bangs up, and heaved. "Hey! We'll find her, I promise," Itachi whispered and squeezed her hand. He readied to summon a crow to fly over the crowd to find his daughter. "I found her," Obito announced, holding the girl over his shoulder as she complained. "Put me down, Uncle Toby," she snarled, wiggling, and huffed as he set her down. She hunched at her parents' gaze. "What were you thinking, walking off like that?" Naru snarled. I mean. I just wanted to see the one stand. She whimpered. Naru's shoulders dropped and she crouched down to her. You have to understand it's not always safe to go off alone, she whispered. Misaki whined before crying and throwing herself into Naru's arms. The fireworks will begin in an hour. How about we get a place to watch? She asked. Misaki nodded and noticeably stuck next to Itachi or Naru as they pushed through the crowd and moved to the hill. Misaki climbed the tree waiting as the crowd grew, eagerly awaiting the light show to come. Misaki reached up for a branch before her foot slipped and she tumbled down the tree, catching herself at the last second. Mama, look it, she cried out. Naru paled as Misaki hung from a branch. Blue chakra shone from her hand as it gripped the branch tightly. Way to go, Misaki. Obito cheered, drawing attention. Naru walked up and motioned for her to drop. Misaki struggled to pull free to no avail until Naru cursed and walked up the tree to the shock of her daughter. Mama, that's so cool. She giggled. How do I get down? Relax, trust me. She whispered and held her wrist. Naru let her chakra disrupt Misaki's, and the glue of chakra released. You're pale, Itachi whispered once both were back on the ground and Misaki ran around with another child. I guess I hoped she wouldn't have chakra? Stupid, I know, but her origin and that life. She has great potential to use chakra like that already. I know it scares me, Naru said, crossing her arms. He made her with the plans for her to be the perfect host, and with no training at all she can do more than I could, and at 5 nonetheless. He will never get his slimy hands on her, I'll see to that. Itachi dash. I swear, he grabbed her hand and squeezed it. She stared into his dark eyes and sighed. And he won't touch you again either. She smiled before looking at her. I want her safe, it won't be long before he locates us, and then what? Bring her to the hideout, Itachi said. She cocked her head. In Rain, we can train her and hone her abilities there safely, and you'll be under our watchful eye. He wouldn't dare come in Rain's borders. Maybe I'll think about it. I dread the thought of her entering the dark world of a ninja, but if I can prepare her enough so she can enter it with the skills needed, then so be it. Naru nodded and looked at her daughter before wrapping her arms around her middle. Just think about it. I will, I promise. She smiled. Misaki owed and awed as the fireworks lit the sky. Naru stared at her head and fought to not throw up at the thought of her becoming a ninja. Misaki giggled as Itachi carried her on his shoulders, the stuffed animal Obito one tucked under his arm, while Tsunade and Jiraiya bickered quietly. Go home, Obito, Itachi ordered. The man gawked at his cousin and scoffed. I'm spending the night, just me. Fine, good night, Misaki. Obito pinched her cheek, handed off the stuffy, and departed with a wave. He means well, Naru mused once Misaki was tucked into bed. Yeah, but a little overwhelming. Naru smiled as she sipped her drink. I didn't mean to invite myself dash. No, I don't mind you being here, and Misaki loves it. Thank you. Naru bit her lip, looking away from his smile, and sighed at the silence. Misaki's moan drew her attention to her room. She's sick dash. Achoo. A bright light emitted from the room and a burning smell wafted out. Naru launched from her spot and found Misaki sitting up, wavering with chakra flaring around her and a burning hole in her blanket. Misaki. She called. The girl turned and sniffled before she sneezed again, and her chakra lit up and faded again. She's got a lot of chakra, it's creating a palpable form around her, Itachi murmured. Misaki whined and curled up in a ball and shivered. Tsunade. The woman rushed in and began to examine her goddaughter. She'll be okay, but you may need a chakra incubator. Tsunade whispered after helping the girl fall back asleep. Her chakra is strong and her lack of control will do more harm than good. Naru sighed and rubbed her arms slowly. Itachi? The man looked at her and waited as she chewed her lip. You promise she'll be safe there? I swear on my life, he whispered. Then she can learn control and chakra and dash. Let's start with control first. He stopped her and took her hand gently. Plus there's things I'd teach you for safety. Then I guess we're moving. Oh, 0. Moving? Misaki asked the next day. Nara nodded as she folded clothes while Misaki helped. But where to? Near Daddy, the girl gasped and squealed. It's time you learn chakra control. Like as a ninja like Tsunade and Jiraiya and Daddy? Yep. Were you a ninja, mommy? I was. Not anymore? Not since I had you, she smiled and poked her nose. Being a mom is much more important. I want to be a ninja, strong and fast. She jumped on the bed and giggled. I'm sure one day you will be, Nara smiled but not on the inside of her cheek. Oh, 0. Within a month the group was packed and ready to move together. Misaki was excited as it grew closer, talking about becoming a top ninja. Jiraiya arranged for a ship to take them to Iron where Itachi would meet them and they would head to Rain safely. I forgot how much I hate moving, Nara groaned as she fell back on the bed of the boat. Tsunade chuckled and watched as Misaki laid her bag down on the bed slowly, which drew Nara's attention as well. Misaki, the girl jolted and slid in front of her bag and smiled. Yes, Mama? What's in your bag? Kiki's stuff. Let me see. No. Naru stood and snatched the bag quickly as Misaki jumped for it, then slunk as Naru opened the bag and gasped. Misaki. She scolded, letting the small fox cub pop up and shake. I said Kiki and that was it. You have to stop rescuing every animal you pass. But look at Kuki, he's so cute. Misaki said, grabbing the fox and hugging it. Tsunade bit back a laugh as Misaki argued and pleaded with Naru. Foxes eat bunnies, so if you leave Kiki and Kuki together he will eat her. Nada. Misaki protested. Not Kuki, he's a nice fox. She grabbed her rabbit and set her down, and no sooner did Kuki charge the rabbit as Misaki screamed and saved her. He's being released when we land, Naru said. Misaki pouted and nodded. Yes, ma'am. Oh, 0. After docking in Iron and loading a horse and cart, they slowly traveled to Rain. Misaki huffed as she lay with the luggage in the cart as the adults walked alongside. She peered up as Naru, who walked with Itachi, talked about something she couldn't hear. Cheer up, kiddo, in a day you get to learn chakra control, Jiraiya said slowly to her. Yeah, but I just wanted a fox, she pouted. He chuckled and ruffled her hair. Maybe when you're older. Misaki made a face that he returned until she began to giggle. So, why is it called Rain? Does it always rain? She asked. Not always, but the rains are very common, he said. She nodded and looked at Kiki, who slept soundly in her cage. I don't think Kiki will like the rain. She may surprise you, Jiraiya smiled. You listen to your mom, okay? And I'll see you soon. Where are you going? Misaki asked. He smiled at the curious nature she had. I am going to a city far from here. I have some things I need to handle. You do me a favor and create a story for me to write when I get back, okay? Okay. Misaki grabbed the notebook from him and turned away. Be careful, Naru said. Jiraiya scoffed and pinched her side. You be careful, take care of her, he said to Itachi, who nodded. Tell the old man I said hi. Will do. He turned, jumped into the trees, and disappeared. For 3 days Jiraiya traveled back to Konoha and arrived nodding at the guards and headed to the Hokage office. Jiraiya. Hiruzen perked up as he entered the office. How is she doing? Good, we're moving because Misaki is showing a great amount of chakra, so we'll be staying in Rain to teach her safely. Why Rain? We made some friends along the way that can keep them both safe, he said. Hiruzen nodded and gathered the allowance. I'm gonna stay for a few days. I feel it won't be long until she's ready to come home. I'm happy to hear. There's been no sign of him in the years. He'll be mighty brave to make a move, but I wouldn't put it past him to make a move once she's back here. Hiruzen growled in anger before sighing. Perhaps if I hadn't been so soft with him, this wouldn't have happened. We could sit here and think everything we should or shouldn't have, but all that matters is he doesn't touch her again. Exactly. Jiraiya left the office later and stretched, heading to the hotel. Jiraiya? He turned and spotted Kakashi standing in the street. Are you back? Just for a few days. Naru dash. Isn't with me, she's doing something else. But, I mean, is she okay? Of course. I've worried about her, especially being gone for so long. She's safe, Kakashi, don't worry. Too late, Jiraiya chuckled and began to walk away. Tell her we miss her. Will do, Jiraiya waved over his shoulder and walked into the hotel building. 000. Misaki, Itachi called as they arrived at the large building in the city that would be their new home. Yes, Daddy? And Mommy told me about your little stunt. But Daddy dash. You know Mommy makes the rules and you have to listen to her. I know, she pouted, crossing her arms, and puffed her cheeks. Regardless, I pulled a string. He produced the fox cub from behind his back, she gasped and took the pup, hugging him tight. Thank you, Daddy. From now on what Mom says goes. Yes sir. Misaki. Abita waved, and Misaki jumped down and ran to her uncle, telling him all about Kuki and their journey. Naru smiled as she watched Misaki and Itachi inside. He's a softie, Tsunade whispered, and she nodded. And cute. Tsunade. She hissed, blushing. What, he is? She shrugged. He's a great father and man, any girl would be lucky, maybe even you. Are you done? Yeah, spoil sport. Naru looked as Itachi unloaded the cart and bit her lip as she thought about the man and how he took Misaki as his. She smiled, remembering the birthdays and celebrations and all the memories he chose to make with Misaki. Naru would be lying if she said wasn't starting to grow feelings for him. He turned and smiled at her, which made her heart skip a beat as she returned it and followed him into the building. Home. Mama, you're hurting my hand. Misaki protested and tugged at her hand latched in Naru's grip. I'm sorry, Naru loosened her grip but did not release her daughter's hand. Where are we going? Why did we have to move again? We're going to my home village, Leaf. But I didn't want to leave Daddy. It's not the last you'll see of him, now listen to me. She crouched and gripped her 7-year-old arms and stared into her purple eyes. You don't go with anyone at all unless I say so, you listen to what I say and don't talk to anyone. Yes ma'am, but I'm scared. Nothing to be scared of, you're my brave little girl, she cupped her face and kissed her forehead. Jiraiya patted Naru's shoulder and nodded, she stood up inside as she eyed the gates. Let's do this. Misaki stared in awe at the tan, green, and red gates before her, the bustling streets, and various scents around her. Whoa! Naru couldn't help the glances left and right as they walked through the village. She glanced at Misaki, who was doing the same but for different reasons. Easy kiddo, it's time, you're ready, Jiraiya whispered. She smiled at him and nodded as they climbed the stairs. Naru peeked around the corner for anyone she would recognize. Mama, if you're from here, why are you sneaking around? Misaki asked loudly. Naru groaned, wanting to cover her face as Tsunade slipped past. She's right. Hush. Tsunade knocked on the door and waited until the call for entrance sounded. Let's go, she motioned and pushed Naru inside. Naru. Hiruzen said in shock, standing up slowly. You're home, he whispered. Naru let her hand go and rushed to him and threw her arms around his neck. He returned the embrace and stroked her hair. I'm so sorry when I found out, I dash. It's okay, she pulled back and smiled at him. You're all grown up now, she smiled and nodded before she glanced at her daughter. Hiruzen looked at her and his breath hitched. He took in her purple eyes and long blue-black hair that was pulled in the same twin tails Naru used to wear. Is this little Misaki? He asked, bending over and smiling. How do you know me? Misaki sneered. Naru flicked her ear and glared. Be nice. Sorry mama, she rubbed her ear and bowed to him. Nice to meet you. Very polite, and sweet, it's a pleasure to finally meet you. He held his hand out, and Misaki shook it with a tight smile on her face before walking past him and looking out the windows to the village. How old are you now, Misaki? 7, she said, continuing to watch the village. She's beautiful, he said. We should talk, Naru said. Hiruzen nodded, activating the privacy barrier. Her heritage, she said in a low tone. Is it his? A little. This is easier. She handed the old papers for him to read, and he looked at Naru in shock. So, he used the massacre to get this? It would be the only way to, he murmured. She knows him, she pointed to Itachi's name. I didn't want to hide a part of her from her. So Itachi knows. What about Daddy? Misaki asked, turning to them. Nothing, Naru said. We're just talking. Misaki scowled at the brush off but turned back anyway. I found him and told him about her, and he's taken to raise her as his own. Naru. He told me, she whispered. Everything, I know it all, she swallowed. Hiruzen sighed, and rubbed his head. He was destined to be Hokage but forced to be the villain, he muttered. If you trust him with this and he's helped, what can I say? He chuckled and sat down staring at Misaki. She looks just like a Uchiha. We kept her last name Uzumaki for obvious reasons, Jiraiya said. Hiruzen nodded. Well, everything aside, I'm happy you're home, Naru smiled, nodding, and rubbed her arm, looking out. Not much has changed. If you want your apartment, I have kept it. Not really, I guess not the best memories there, she shrugged. Plus the space. You can stay in the Hokage residence until we find a permanent place for you. Naru nodded again and sighed. Did the team ever, were they told Dash? I never did. They asked about you frequently but I kept it vague at best, he smiled, and she nodded. Go get some rest, you look exhausted, she nodded. I want to introduce her to someone special first. Is he at the academy? Hiruzen smiled. He is, they let out a few minutes ago, so he should be there alone. Come on, Misaki. I'll go get the place ready, Tsunade said and walked out with a wave. Want me to stay? Jiraiya whispered. She nodded, her eyes pleading. He ruffled her hair and led her to the academy. Naru peeked through the door window, finding the Chunin grading papers and holding his head. She smiled, slipping into the room with a knock. Come in. He called. Another headache, sensei? He gasped, staring at her in awe before launching to his feet. Naru. He yanked her into a hug, making her groan as he pulled back, holding her shoulders and eyeing her. My little Naru. Are you back? You better be, it's been too long. He said. She giggled with a nod. Yeah, I'm home. Good. You're not allowed to leave for years without a goodbye, especially. I'm sorry about that, sensei, she muttered. We need to talk. Concern flashed in his eyes as he looked her up and down again as she led him to a desk. He leaned on the tabletop and waited as she squirmed. There was a big reason I left so quickly and I was gone for so long. He nodded and waited as she let out a sigh. You remember how off I was after the second stage of the exams? He nodded, recalling her jump away from him and avoidance. Well, it's because something happened during that exam. It's harder than I thought. She brushed her hair up and huffed. I was raped. Iruka paled and stood up. What? He squeaked. No. She nodded and winced as he began to breathe quickly. No, it can't, you couldn't have, Dash. It's true, sensei. But you're my little Naru, you couldn't have been subjected to. Who could have? I'll kill whoever, Dash. Sensei, calm down. She said as he paced, muttering to himself. She reached forward, grabbed his cheek, and pulled as he cried out in pain. Naru, he slurred. Are you done? Can I finish? He nodded and she let go with one last pull of his cheeks. It hurts, doesn't it? She asked, putting her hands on her hips. He laughed, recalling he used to do that to her to gain attention. But Naru, Dash. Stop. She held her hand up, making him quiet down. It happened, nothing that can be done now, it's in the past. So, did you? Were you? He stopped and huffed. Yes, I got pregnant from it and I had a child, it's why I was gone. Tears welled up in his eyes as he stared at her. I couldn't stay here and be pregnant, he sniffled and couldn't hold back the tears. I'm so sorry, Naru, he sobbed. She leaned in and cupped his cheek, making him look at her through blurry eyes. I wasn't able to help or protect you. That's not true, you've done a lot for me, she smiled. Now dry your face so you can meet my daughter. His breath hitched as he stared before he dried his face and took calming breaths. Naru waited before leaning back. Jiraiya, the door opened and Misaki skipped in and slid behind Naru, peeking at the Chunin. Iruka gasped, staring at her, and smiled. "Iruka-sensei, meet Misaki." "Misaki, this was my academy sensei Iruka," she said. Misaki slid out and bowed to him. "Nice to meet you." He crouched to her and nodded. "It's nice to meet you, young lady." She blushed and grinned at him. "She has your smile," he said. "So how old are you?" 7. "Are you going to join the academy?" Misaki gasped and looked at Naru. "Please, mommy. Please." She whined and stuck her lip out. Naru laughed softly. "Maybe, you'd be advanced in the class with everything you know." "So?" Misaki protested. "I think it'll be fun." "We'll see." Iruka stood up and pulled Naru in, hugging her once more. She returned and pulled back. "We need to get home to help Aunt Tsunade," she said. "Where are you staying?" "The Hokage residence." "I'll come see you again, we can talk." "I'd like that. Come along, Misaki." "Bye-bye," she waved. Iruka waved back until they left before he crumpled and began to cry alone. They left the academy and headed to the Hokage residence. Naru glanced at the people. Some people whispered behind their hands like in the past. She sighed and pulled Misaki closer, who noticed. "Why are they whispering? Is it about us?" "Me, actually," Naru muttered. "Why?" "It's rude," Misaki said louder, making them scatter. "It's okay, Misaki." "No, it's not, Mama." "You're right, it's not, but I'm used to it." "Inside," Jiraiya said, pushing them inside the building. "So, why are people rude to you?" Misaki asked. Naru sighed heavily. "It's complicated, but it has to do with myself and my parents." "You never talk about them." "Tell me about them," Misaki said, jumping on the couch. Well, a pop of smoke appeared, revealing Itachi, who removed his hat and cloak. "Daddy!" Misaki cheered, hugging him tightly. "How's it going?" Same old," Naru shrugged. He gave a small head shake and turned to Misaki, lifting her. A knock on the door had him walking Misaki to the bedroom and shutting the door as Jiraiya answered it and chuckled. "It's for you." Naru walked up and smiled at Kakashi standing there. "Sensei." "It's been a long time." He ruffled her hair and looked her up and down. "You're home," she nodded and paused. "Should I get the others?" He motioned. "Can you bring them tomorrow so we can catch up?" "Not today? It's been a long journey and I'm tired, but tomorrow at lunchtime?" "Okay," he said. She smiled before giving a half hug to the man who returned it and walked away. She shut the door and leaned against it. "All clear," Jiraiya called. Itachi walked out and looked at Naru. "Are you okay?" "No, yes, no, I don't know." She rubbed her forehead. "I needed to come back, but this is stressful and I'm scared," she whispered. "It'll be okay, Naru." Itachi took her hand and rubbed it gently. "You and Misaki will be safe." "I know we will, but how am I going to tell them?" "Who all knows so far?" "She's met the old man and Iruka, no one else." "Are you telling them tomorrow?" "Yeah, will you stay?" "Of course," he smiled. "Anything for you." Naru blushed and looked away. That night Naru sat on Misaki's bed and sighed. "What story do you want me to read tonight?" "I want you to tell me about your parents," she chirped. Naru paused and leaned back, letting Misaki snuggle against her. "Their names were Minato Namikaze and Kushina Uzumaki," she began. "They were the top ninja in this village, so great that my dad was the fourth Hokage." Misaki stared at her in awe. "No one could beat him, he was a legend, nearly single-handedly stopping the Third War himself." "Why?" "People were too scared to face him in battle." "He was taught by Jiraiya too," she said. "So he's not just a writer?" "No, he was Dad's sensei and a top ninja himself, he just prefers to write now." "So your dad was a Hokage, what about your mom?" "She was a top kunoichi, brought from a foreign land to become a holder for the tailed beast. She had strong chakra that many people wanted." Naru sighed. They fell in love when she was kidnapped and he rescued her. Did you know them? Misaki asked absent-mindedly, dragging her finger on Naru's arm. No, they died the night I was born. Oh, that's sad, she said. I'm glad that didn't happen to you. She hugged her then yawned. I'm glad too, she whispered. So how did they die? Well, it's like I said, Mom had the tailed beast sealed inside her as a child, and the night they were having me he broke free, and having the beast sealed inside extracted means certain death. But Mom was so strong she lasted longer than that, she smiled. Jiraiya leaned against the hallway listening as Naru quietly told their tale until Misaki fell asleep. She slipped out of the room, shut the door and smiled at him. She wanted to know them? Yeah, Naru glanced at the floor. Thank you, for all of this, you didn't have to dash. Nonsense, he pulled her close and let her hug him. You've grown into a beautiful young adult before my eyes, she smiled, pulled away, and glanced at Itachi, who looked out of the window. Weird to be back? I checked in frequently, but a little, he said. I never stayed the night, just a few hours here or there. It must have been hard to watch and know he hated you. Have you ever thought of telling the truth? It's not that easy. Why? He wouldn't forgive me for what I'd done, and I'd fear he would turn on the village for it. It wasn't the village, but the council. They even had their hands in my life, thinking age knows best. Itachi let a ghost smile appear before it fell. What if we talked to Hiruzen? I don't know dash. It would let you be with your daughter in public, and Sasuke would understand if you tell him everything, show him everything. You can do that with your eyes. Maybe. It would be nice to have you around all the time, Naru said with a blush on her cheeks. Misaki would love it, and I would too. Itachi looked at her before smiling. Yeah, Naru leaned in and pressed a kiss on his cheek before pulling away and disappearing down the hall. Itachi touched his cheek before letting out a small sigh. Telling the truth. Naru smiled as she braided Misaki's hair back and tied the band at the end. There we go, all done. Misaki stood and twirled with a giggle. Do you promise to be good for Aunt Tsunade? Promise, Mama. But where are you going? And why can't I go? I need to talk to the Hokage again, and it'll be boring, she said. Misaki nodded. Naru grabbed her bag and paused as Itachi sat next to Misaki, the blinds closed tight to hide his presence. Itachi? He turned and nodded to her. Can we talk for a second? He followed her into the kitchen and waited patiently as she bit her lip and drummed her nails. Are you okay? He chuckled. No, I want you to come with me, to Hiruzen. Why? To talk to him, to get him to reveal the past. Naru, he sighed. It's not like I don't want to, but it's not that simple. I'm a wanted criminal for the murder of an entire clan. He can't just write it away and expect it to be okay. No, he can't. I understand that, but it's not okay for you to be always on the run and hiding, and now with your daughter, Naru said. Itachi glanced down, then at the doorway where Misaki Saturday, please, maybe together we can come up with a solution, and if these stupid people can't accept the truth then forget them. Itachi sighed and crossed his arms over his chest. I guess, but I don't anticipate much, she smiled and took his hand. Thank you. Naru waited as Itachi created a henge and left the home together, heading for the Hokage's office. Once they arrived and requested privacy, Itachi dropped the henge and bowed to Hiruzen. It's been some time, Itachi, Hiruzen said, his face filled with sadness. Yes, it has. What can I do for you both? Well, first I wanted forms for Misaki to join Irika's class. She's excited, despite being already at genin level. I'll let her have normal experiences. Hiruzen searched the desk and presented the papers to her. Naru tucked them in her pocket and waited as both waited. What can I do for you, Itachi-kun? Naru wants us to discuss the truth. I told her everything these past years, and she made a point that I can't be a father to Misaki with the ruse of a cold-blooded clan murderer being public. Hiruzen took a deep breath and propped his chin on his hands. I wish we never came to that solution, he said. Itachi looked down. But it happened, no amount of wishing will change that. Itachi, if you want the truth to come out, I'll grant it. I can pardon you, but you have to be prepared for the backlash of being in the village again. The stares, whispers, even the risk of threats, are you prepared for that? Not much different than what I deal with now, I'll just be in my home and protecting it in the light. It's wrong, Naru muttered and crossed her arms. Itachi smiled at her and turned back to the Hokage. You also have to think about Sasuke and the future of the clan. If the truth of the coup comes out, the clan will be dragged through the mud. Itachi shifted and clenched his jaw. I have no problem releasing it, but it's your call. Itachi looked at him, then to the windows and sighed heavily. I can handle it, but I do understand the hesitation, and I can't answer honestly that Sasuke could handle the truth of the clan. He's believed. I just snapped. Hiruzen nodded. Can I talk to Sasuke first? Naru is meeting the team to tell them. I'll take Sasuke to the old compound and I'll talk to him. It's his choice just as much as mine. Very well, come to me later. Bring Sasuke with you. Thank you, sir, he bowed. The disguised Itachi and Naru headed home after dropping the forms off to Irika. She glanced at him and nearly huffed at his unreadable expression. As he shut the outer door, he released the hinge. Naru started up the stairs before he grabbed her hand. She paused and waited. Naru, I just want to say thank you. Of course, thank you for talking to him and thinking about it. It's really not right for you to bear this burden all alone, and if you choose to release it, I'll be here by your side. And so what if Sasuke doesn't accept him? MPH. Itachi pulled her head forward and crashed his lips against hers. She blinked in shock before her shoulders dropped and she stepped closer to him. He pulled back slightly, their breathing mingled for a moment before he pulled her closer again. Naru moaned and opened her mouth. His tongue licked her lip and gently slipped in and licked about. She gripped his shirt and shivered. He broke it and pulled back. Naru blinked slowly and still held his shirt. She looked up at him and her cheeks went red. Sorry, if that was I just Itachi began. No, it was nice, really nice, she giggled, and he smiled back down to her. I owe you a thanks. You took Misaki in and stepped up, and you've been so wonderful, and no matter what you choose, it won't change how we feel or see you or anything. Both stood there for a moment in silence. Naru hugged him and looked up at him. She smiled and pulled back after a moment and held her hand out. He took it and followed her up the stairs and back into the house. Welcome back. Misaki cheered. Make sure you get plenty of rest over the weekend, Naru said. Why? You begin the academy Monday morning in Irika's class. Misaki gasped and squealed, jumping around the room before hugging her mom tight while rapidly and repeatedly thanking her. Naru glanced at the clock and gulped as it ticked past noon. The team would be returning with questions that she would have to answer. I'm here, and you got this, Itachi whispered. She smiled at him and nodded. Where did Jiraiya go? Naru asked, noticing the man missing. Who knows, probably Peep doing his research. Tsunade motioned. Naru chuckled. We got her if you want to go into the village, Naru offered. Tsunade nodded. She and Shizune grabbed their money and headed out. Tsunade paused. You got this, but good luck. Thank you. They're here, Shizune called from the bottom of the stairs. Misaki, come show me Kiki and Kuki, Itachi said. Misaki frowned but followed him into her room and he shut the door. Naru wrung her hands as Tsunade pushed the door open, and Naru smiled as Kakashi, Sasuke, and Sakura walked in. Welcome home. Sakura cheered and hugged her teammate. Naru chuckled and returned the hug. Been a long time, Sasuke bumped her arm. It has. Do you want anything to drink? She motioned. They declined and sat on the couch waiting as Naru sat on the chair and heaved a sigh. So, why were you gone this whole time? You seem different, more mature, Sakura said. I am different, I've been through a lot, Naru sighed and rubbed her legs. What happened, Naru? Kakashi asked. Jiraiya wouldn't tell me anything the times he visited, and you disappeared so suddenly after the second exams. Hiruzen told me you were on a journey and you never came back. Naru took in a deep breath and gulped. Yeah, I left in a hurry back then. Crap, I really should have thought this conversation through, she mumbled and rubbed her head. Okay. You all know after the Forest of Death I was off, she nodded. They gave their own. It was because that man, that attacked us and then was gone after I fought him, she said. His name was Orochimaru. Kakashi stiffened. He was in search of the perfect host for his body. He stayed young by transferring his soul into new bodies every few years, she said. He was hunting for a new one, but this time he decided he would make his own, and when he decided that, he chose me, she said. Chose you? Sasuke asked. He raped me, she said. Kakashi stared at her in horror. Sakura gasped, covering her mouth, and Sasuke's jaw dropped. He knocked you two out and his partner Kabuto paralyzed me. Orochimaru assaulted me and injected synthetic sperm inside me, Naru said, her body shaking. He told me he was watching me and to not do anything to harm his new body and left the scroll with me. I didn't know what to do, so I gathered myself up and woke you both, she said. Naru, why didn't you say something? Kakashi asked. I could have dash. That's just it, I didn't know what you'd do, I was scared, her voice quivered. I laid in bed and when the preliminaries came I fought Kabuto. I tried to use his chakra scalpel to kill it, even if it killed me, but he was too smart and gave up, she said. You pulled me and when I ran to the bathroom he threatened me again. He said he would kill everyone I cared for and make me watch. Tears slipped down her face. I took a test and it came back positive, so I found Jiraiya and told him. He lied to Hiruzen at first and took me to Tsunade. We confirmed it and because Orochimaru put a seal on my body we couldn't terminate it. It nearly killed me, she whispered and touched her stomach. Naru, I'm so sorry, I wish you would have told me, we would have could have dash. That's just it, what could you have done? I couldn't be pregnant in this village, and since Orochimaru was able to enter the village so easily, I was scared he would take me prisoner or something, she said. So, you had a kid? Yeah, we traveled around and got a home in snow. I went into labor and my seal started to break, I hemorrhaged and nearly died, but my father stopped him, she smiled. Kakashi blinked in shock then nodded. I gave birth to a little girl, Sakura gasped and covered her mouth. Naru smiled. She's beautiful and brilliant, she's perfect, she chuckled. Can we meet her? Sakura asked, her voice pitched and her legs jumped. Naru stood and walked to the room. Kakashi wrung his hands taking in the story. He couldn't accept that what happened was under his nose. He had a gut feeling something happened to her, but he never expected it to be this. Naru walked out and pulled Misaki who hissed a whisper to her. Naru sat back down and Misaki climbed on her lap and looked at them. Sakura gasped and chuckled. Sasuke smiled as he looked at the girl, and Kakashi gasped. This is Misaki, this is my old team, Sakura, Sasuke, and my sensei Kakashi, she said pointing. Nice to meet you, she nodded. Can I go now, Mama? Yes, go in the kitchen, I made you lunch, she said. The girl waved and headed to the kitchen. Naru sighed. She's so stinking cute. Sakura squealed. Misaki blushed, tugged her long hair, and disappeared in the door. Sasuke stared at the dark hair with a blue tint, much like his own. She looks like you, but also doesn't, he said. That's where things get a little complicated, Naru said. Like I said, he injected the synthetic sperm, she said quieter. Tsunade and Jiraiya had a DNA test done, and they discovered what he used, she said. Kakashi's brow scrunched as she pulled out the paperwork again. Sasuke. She stopped as Kakashi read the form, his visible eye wide as Sasuke grabbed it and read the words. The clan? How? I mean, why did he dash? He was after the Sharingan, but also the longevity of the Uzumaki, so he combined them both, she said. So she's half Uchiha? Yes, Naru said and took in a deep breath. I decided I couldn't, you can see the names, she said. Sasuke looked at the papers again and a sneer crossed his face. Sasuke, I met him. What? He hissed. I told him and he became a father to her, she said, her voice quivered again. How could you let that monster anywhere near her? He snarled. Because you don't know the truth. Naru snapped back. He isn't who you thought, Dash. He's exactly who I thought. I witnessed it. Not you. You think you know what I went through. No. Dash. Sasuke, calm down. She's right in the other room. Kakashi scolded. Don't talk to me about Itachi, I know him. I saw him snap and kill Dash. Sasuke. Naru barked, and Misaki walked out chewing food. Mama? She asked with a full mouth. Misaki, go back, Dash. I can't believe you'd let her around a monster like it, Dash, he began and glanced up, spotting Itachi leaning in the hallway. You bastard. He snarled and launched forward. Naru jumped in the way, but he shoved her to the ground and began running through hand signs with a yell. Tsukuyami. Itachi barked, his Sharingan glinted as it activated. He made eye contact with Sasuke, who froze before he hit the ground and twitched, his eyes glazed. Naru huffed and pulled her arms close to her chest. Sakura dropped next to Sasuke and checked his pulse. He's in a genjutsu, he's fine, I won't hurt him, Itachi said. Daddy? Misaki asked. I'm fine, princess, he smiled. I'll bring him where we can talk, he said and hauled Sasuke over his shoulder before he flickered out. Naru bit her lip and looked down. Misaki hugged her before she wiped away the tear on her cheek. It's okay, Mama. Daddy will sort it all out. She smiled. Naru kissed her head and looked up as Kakashi held his hand out. She took it and sat back in the chair. Sakura brushed her hair back and sat back down. He's still sensitive about that, but we've been working on his anger, I guess seeing him. I get it, Naru said. Well, I don't. Why'd he attack my daddy? Misaki said. That was mean. She whined. Your daddy can protect himself, and he has a tense relationship with his brother. Sasuke is daddy's brother? Naru nodded her head and smiled. So, he's my uncle? Yes, I guess you could say that. Cool. She chirped. But it doesn't excuse his behavior. Go feed Kiki and Kuki, she said. Misaki nodded and headed back to her room. Kiki and Kuki? Misaki has a big heart and she likes to adopt animals she finds in the woods. I can't tell you the number of times I woke up with a bear cub in her bed. Naru rubbed her head. I let her keep the snow rabbit Kiki, and Itachi convinced me to let her keep a fox pup named Kuki, she said. She's really cute, and she's beautiful, Sakura said. Naru looked at Kakashi, who took in a breath. I'm sorry, he said. What for? She chuckled. I had a feeling, I should have taken you to the hospital. I could tell Kabuto did something, but I just couldn't imagine he'd have a part in doing something as vile as that. You were a child. I was, but it made me a better person. I don't hold anything against you. I didn't make it easy, she shook her head. I just worry about the future. Why? Orochimaru made her, intending to take her from me. He wants the Sharingan. And Jiraiya said a further dojutsu could awaken with the two bloods together. I just fear for her safety. I have no doubt he knows of our return, or at least will know. Well, you have us, Sakura said. That bastard won't lay a finger on her head. She punched her palm and smirked. Exactly, he won't touch you or Misaki ever again, Kakashi said. Naru's lip quivered before she bent over and cried. Sakura moved and touched her back, and Kakashi followed and rubbed her shoulder. Thank you, you have no idea how happy that makes me. No. No. Naru walked down the road towards the academy, like she did every day since Misaki joined Irika's class a few months ago. She enjoyed the spring air as it whistled, blew her hair back, and carried the cherry blossom scent. She turned to the swing that swayed under the large tree. She recalled sitting on that wooden seat, watching kids, parents, and teachers at the start of a new year, the end of the year, and all the celebrations they held, ones from which she had been excluded. It seemed so long ago, being a carefree child in the academy, before the ninja life, before she was a mom. The melodious bell sounded, and she stepped forward. The other parents waited as she did for their children. The doors burst open, and kids filed out, chattering about their day. She peered through the crowd and cocked her head as Misaki walked out, her steps slow and her head down. What's wrong with her? She wondered. By Misaki. A young Mirai, daughter of Asuma and Kurenai, called with a big wave. Misaki gave a fake smile and waved back to her friend. Misaki turned and spotted her mother watching her and put on a big smile, running up and hugging her. "Hi mama," she chirped. Nara returned the hug before she took her hand, and they began their journey home. "How was today?" "Good. We're learning weapon styles and throwing. Today we started on shurikens." Nara glanced to the left and spotted some women gathered, their hands over their mouths, whispering and throwing dirty looks their way. Still, even after all these years, they never change. She sighed and held her chin high. Despite making Konoha their permanent home for nearly 4 months, people still couldn't let her title go. They avoided her gaze and would whisper about her or her daughter, or even the recent drama she was involved in. It didn't matter what they said about her, so long as Misaki wasn't subjected to it, she could take what they did. "Mama?" Misaki asked, and she shook her head and looked at her. "Sorry, what?" "I said, can you teach me shuriken throwing? We have a test next Friday." I may not be the best one for that," Nara rubbed her head. "Uncle Sasuke or Daddy would be the best to teach you." "Okay. I'll ask when we get home," she chirped. Both girls arrived at their home, which was situated in the Uchiha district. Hiruzen found a few places, this being one of them. She had hesitated about being inside the Uchiha district, worried it would upset Itachi, but he insisted the location was perfect for his family. Sasuke even insisted that it would be a breath of fresh air having more than himself housed in the area. Nara smiled as she spotted Itachi standing outside, talking to Sasuke and Sakura. They turned and greeted the two, Sasuke giving Misaki a high five. Itachi bent to Misaki, she leaned up and gave a peck on his cheek as he smiled. "How's my big girl? Did you have a good day at school?" "I'm good, and it was good. I'm gonna go do my homework." She slipped inside and shut the door. Itachi stood up, frowned at the door, and turned to Naru. "What's wrong?" "She's off, down. I don't know. She seemed upset leaving the academy today, but she's putting on a smile." Nara crossed her arms and huffed. "Maybe talk to Iruka, he may know," Sakura suggested. Nara nodded, taking a deep breath and turning to her. "And how are you doing?" she asked and glanced at Sakura's stomach, which was finally starting to show. She grinned and rubbed her hand over the bump. "We have our checkup next week." She squealed and tugged Sasuke's arm. He rubbed his head and smirked, his cheeks pink. The two announced that Sakura was expecting just over 2 months ago. Nara was ecstatic for her friends and happy that Sasuke was building the family he had desired for years. She glanced at Itachi and back to Sasuke. The two brothers had it out that day months ago after she told them the truth. Itachi chose to take Sasuke to the hidden shrine of the Uchiha clan and freed him from the ocular jutsu, after binding him, of course. He told Sasuke the truth of the clan, his mission, and his choice. Sasuke refused to believe him at first and had himself so stressed out that Itachi decided to show him everything. Even their parents' final words to the elder brother. He showed him the side of their father that Sasuke had been shielded from. The secrets of the Uchiha clan, their coup, and their hatred for the village and its occupants. He explained he had to kill the clan to save not only Sasuke's life but the lives of everyone in the village. He freed Sasuke as an act of his change, and Sasuke still tried to fight him. Itachi told her that Sasuke screamed at him, and he even got a few good hits on his older brother. Sasuke hadn't cared about the side he was hidden from, he was angry at the simple fact that Itachi chose to leave him. He chose to abandon the village and, most importantly, abandon Sasuke that night. He chose to torture him with the sight of his parents being slaughtered over and over, all to ensure Sasuke's Sharingan awakened that night and would propel him to be strong. After Sasuke screamed until his voice left him and he was exhausted from the one-sided fight, his anger dissipated, and he stormed out of the hall and left Itachi alone with his opinion. Itachi didn't give up, though. He tried to get through to Sasuke a few more times, and he even introduced him to Obito, who vouched for Itachi and their conjoined actions that night. And finally, after weeks, Sasuke was able to let it go and try to connect with the remaining family he had. Which meant he properly met Misaki, who lectured him about attacking her daddy, but she welcomed him as her uncle. Naru turned as Itachi shut the door and slid his shoes off. "How are you two doing now?" Naru asked. "Good." He's still hesitant, I can tell, but much better than before. I think the prospect of having a child has matured him some. "And you? How are you doing?" "I know I ask a lot, but Hiruzen released the truth almost a month ago and reinstated you as a jounin. It must be hard," she said. Hiruzen released the Uchiha clan truth, omitting a few things obviously, but did release that Itachi killed the clan on his orders and did so for the safety of the village. He met with Sasuke and Itachi over and over before they agreed to release the truth and how much of it should be released. "A little, it's stranger than anything. But I'm pushing through, you don't have to worry about me, Naru." He pulled her close and kissed her head. "Everything is okay." "Not everything." She looked at Misaki's room. "I'll go talk to Iruka tomorrow." She wrapped her arms around his body, and he set his chin on her head. Both stood still holding one another. "Oh, and Misaki wants shuriken training. She should ask Sasuke, it'd be a great bonding exercise for them." "I agree." 000. Naru smiled as she walked the halls of the academy the next day. She looked at the doors and the hallways. The smells and the sound of her sandals squeaking on the floor brought so many memories back to her. She approached Iruka's classroom door and paused outside. She spotted the Chunin eating his lunch, which, of course, was ramen. She gave a knock and slipped inside and shut the door. He smiled and finished his mouthful, and stood. "Naru," he smiled. "Don't you eat anything else?" she teased. He glanced at the bowl with a blush and scratched his cheek. "Yes, I do venture to other things now and again," he answered. "And I seem to recall a time when you ate nothing but ramen, too." She chuckled and looked at the desks, then at the window, looking at the children playing in the yard. "I'm sorry to bother you during your lunch, but I wanted to talk to you alone." "It's okay, I've been meaning to talk to you too." "About Misaki." He nodded and sat back down as she pulled a chair for herself. "Has she brought up class or any incidents?" Naru shook her head. "No, and she's been off for a couple of days. I'm worried, and I hoped you'd have an insight." "I do, and her name is Aki Toda." Naru arched her brow and waited as the Chunin sighed. "Aki is your typical bully and picks on Misaki nearly every day. Misaki has tried to be friends with her, and Aki won't have it. She and her little clique tease Misaki about, well, you name it, they do. But it's especially ramped up with the whole Uchiha thing. They know she's related to the clan." Iruka nodded. "And the whole clan discussion, they make fun of her hair, her family, upbringing. If she answers the questions in class right, it's all ammo to them." He sighed. "She's gotten to the point she's barely participating anymore. She's still passing with flying colors, but," he motioned. Naru heaved a sigh, and looked towards the window again. "Oh, Misaki. I punish Aki and her friends all the time, but nothing has changed. I had hoped Misaki would have brought it to you. I'll talk to her tonight and we'll come up with a solution." "Thank you, Iruka, please let me know if anything else happens." Naru waited around for the end of the academy. She gnawed her lip as she waited for Misaki to come out. And like the past few days, Misaki looked unhappy until she spotted Naru and put a smile on her face. "Hi, Mama." "Come on." Misaki took Naru's offered hand and walked with her in silence, her eyes staring at her feet as they walked. Naru released her hand, making Misaki look up, and found herself at the park, which was empty. "Mama? Come." She sat on the swing and pushed back and forth. Misaki dropped her bag and sat on the other swing and waited. Naru took in a breath and looked at the sky. "Aki Toda." Misaki gulped and stared at Naru as she turned and gave a small smile. "How do you know her?" "Well, I don't know her personally, but I know of her. And I've known ones like her too. The popular girl who wants to make your life hell simply for being there, just like she's doing to you, am I right?" Misaki's head dropped, and her lip quivered. "I tried to be her friend. I try really hard and she won't," she sighed and rubbed her eyes dry. Misaki, some people are very miserable inside, and they can't stand seeing the light in others that they don't have in themselves. Misaki sniffled and angrily wiped the tear that rolled down her cheek. Why didn't you tell me about her? 'Cause I asked to go to the academy, and I asked for experiences like this. I have to deal with Dash. No, you don't, I'm your mother, and if I have to intervene, I will. You don't need to fight and be strong. But you and Daddy are strong and fight the battles of the people here. You hold your heads up and don't back down. You keep going and don't dash. Your daddy and I are adults. You are a child. You are our child, and we would go to the ends of the earth to make sure you're safe and happy. That includes fighting academy bullies. Well, don't fight her, it wouldn't be a fair fight, and Iruka-sensei has been teaching us the morals of a ninja, so maybe just scare her. She giggled. I can do that, I'm pretty scary, right? Naru scrunched her face before she grabbed Misaki and began to tickle her ribs, making her squeal and giggle. Yeah. Yeah. Truce. She squealed and kicked her legs. Naru stopped and pulled her close, and hugged her. Don't hide anything from me, always come to me for everything and anything, even if it's a paper cut, okay? Okay, Mama. Let's head home, since tomorrow is Saturday, Uncle Sasuke is going to take you for shuriken training. Gasp. You asked him? Yay. She clapped. They made it home and found Itachi putting the plates down on the table and greeted them. This is my favorite, Daddy. Misaki chirped as she ate her dinner, and he smiled. Well, thank you. And I got some dango for us after, he said. Misaki's eyes glittered in excitement as she quickly shoveled the food into her mouth. And, I'm going to go with you and Uncle Sasuke to practice tomorrow. Yay. She said around her food. Do you want to tell Daddy what's going on? Naru asked. And Misaki paused before swallowing her food and sighed. I got a bully in class. Oh? He asked. Naru caught the slight eye twitch he gave at the news. Who? You don't have to worry, Daddy. Mama is gonna scare her good. She said and punched her palm. Naru choked before laughing. Itachi chuckled before he stopped. Well, now I will scare her too. And if it ever gets too much, there's no shame in walking away from the academy. Well, I dunno, I like the class and I really want to become a genin one day, but I'll keep it in mind. She smiled. That's my girl. Later, after Misaki fell asleep and Naru tucked her into bed, she went into her room and found Itachi leaning against the dresser. A bully, huh? She was taking our example of holding our heads high with the whispers we endure, and thought she had to do the same with the girl. Itachi shook his head. She doesn't have to dash. I know, I told her, I explained she needed to come to us about any problems she has no matter the size. Itachi nodded and stood upright. Well, I need to get some sleep. Good night. He whispered. Naru grabbed his wrist making him pause. You can sleep in here, you know? With me, I wouldn't mind the company. Itachi kissed her lips and pulled back. I'd like that. He whispered. Oh. Naru smiled as she sat with Kakashi and Ichiraku's, eating ramen and chatting about various things. We're having a girl. Sakura yelled as she burst inside and did a quick dance as they turned to her, watching as she turned around squealing. Congratulations. Naru cheered and looked at Sasuke, who walked in dazed and silent. You'll love it, girls are a handful but great. She said. I can't wait to tell Misaki she'll have a little cousin to play with soon. Sakura giggled. Kakashi ruffled Sakura's hair and squeezed Sasuke's shoulder with a chuckle. My team is all grown up. He said. Feeling old there, Kakashi? Naru asked. He glared playfully at her, and opened his mouth to reply before a Chunin walked in and sighed. Naru, Iruka sent me to get you. Misaki got into a fight, and he needs you to come to the academy. Naru gasped and rushed out, heading for her daughter. She rushed into the academy and found Iruka in the hall waiting. He beckoned her to follow down the hall towards the nurse's station. What happened? We were discussing clans and the hierarchy of the village. Aki made a comment about the Uchiha clan, which set Misaki off. She yelled as Aki, who antagonized Misaki, who in turn tackled her. They tumbled down the stairs, Misaki got a few hits in, and so did Aki, before we pulled them apart. He said. He opened the door, and Naru walked into the room. She glanced at a girl lying on the bed, crying quietly. Misaki sat on a far bed, her eye was bruised and she had some scratches on her face, but nothing more. She held a bag of ice to her hand, which was torn up more than anything. Misaki. She looked up at Naru before her face crumpled, and she began to cry as Naru hugged her and hushed her quietly. I'm sorry, Mama. She sniffled and pulled back. No, don't apologize. Naru rubbed her head and touched her eyebrow above the bruised eye, and sighed. So, you laid her out? Are you angry? I'm angry at this girl, not you. She stood and turned to Irika. I hope the brat is being punished, she asked. Irika sighed and scratched his head. She is, but I have to punish Misaki too. She threw the first hit. Naru rolled her eyes and nodded, knowing all too well the rules of the academy. She needs to stay home for 3 days. In the meantime, we'll have a meeting with Aki's parents and see what we'll do from there. She can go home. Naru scooped Misaki up in her arms. I'm sorry, Irika-sensei, Misaki whispered. I promise it won't happen again. He ruffled her hair. Naru looked at the girl she passed earlier and winced. The girl had 2 black eyes, a bloody nose, and an all-around torn-up image. Pride filled her chest, her daughter was a tough little thing. 000. Naru let out an angry snort as she stormed from the Hokage's office. She met with Aki's parents, the Hokage, and Irika. At first, a lot of insults and yelling occurred in the room. They tried to blame Misaki for the damage done to their daughter, but Naru wasn't having it. She turned it back on them for their lack of discretion with adult conversations about the situation of the village, the Uchiha clan, and their personal feelings. Finally, after 2 hours of back and forth, they decided Aki would be transferred to a different class after a week's suspension. Misaki was also suspended for a week, which Naru was fine with. A part of her wanted Misaki to say she didn't want to return. She would train her and teach her. She knew that when you cut the head off once, 3 more grew back in its place. But until Misaki voiced her desire to step away from the academy, she would bite her tongue. Naru headed to the training grounds by the Uchiha district, where Kakashi was training Misaki, most likely with Sasuke and Sakura. The Jounin had been spending a lot of time with Misaki, becoming a sensei to her. Naru thought it was cute the way he lit up around the girl. She knew it partially had to do with the guilt of how Misaki came to be. Naru hinted she knew, but he gave lame excuses for spending so much time with both of them. She walked through the gate and spotted Pakken, who ran out of the bushes, his nose to the ground. Pakken. She smiled, the dog turned and raised his paw before going back to his sniffing. Kakashi rushed out of the bushes and paused his stride. You okay? She asked. Naru, you have to listen to me, okay, it was only a few minutes and We can't find her, sensei, Sakura said, jumped next to him, and paused. What? Naru asked and looked around for her daughter. Where's Misaki? She asked. We were doing a hunt to train her how to repress her chakra, and she was doing good, then her chakra just disappeared, and we can't find her, Kakashi said. What? Naru yelped and looked around, and began to breathe heavily. My whole pack is hunting her scent, and Sasuke is using his hawk for an eye in the sky. We'll find her, he said and grabbed her arms. No. She yelped and began to focus her chakra, sending it out in waves for her daughter. A howl broke loose, they rushed through the trees to the far side of the grounds that backed to the woods outside the village. Misaki! Misaki! Naru screamed and pushed through the bushes and checked the tops of trees. Naru let out a gasp and stumbled back into Kakashi's arms. Sakura rushed forward and gasped at the shuriken embedded in the tree, and a white snake was curled around the blade. Naru let out a scream and fell to her knees and buried her face into her hands. He was back. He was back, and he had her daughter. Bargain. Naru let out a wail as she collapsed to her knees, wrapping her arms around her stomach. Naru, it's going to be okay. Kakashi began. Okay? Okay? She snarled and shot to her feet. I told you. I told you. She screamed and shoved his chest. He's after her. He made her to steal her away. She huffed. You promised. She snarled. I know. I'll find her. We'll find her. He won't do anything to her. He said. She screamed and started to hit his chest over and over. He grabbed her wrists and pulled her in. She began to sob and buried her face into his chest. I'll find her. He whispered. 000. 2 hours later, Itachi, Naru, Kakashi, and Sasuke stood at the gates as the Akatsuki members rushed through the woods. Obito pushed forward first and pulled Naru into a hug. Kakashi's breath hitched as he stared at his longtime friend, the one who fled into the night after his accident during the war. Kakashi, he greeted. What happened? He asked. She was working on hiding her chakra, but it just disappeared. Most likely an incubator was put on her, he said. Please, Naru squeaked. Please help me find her. We'll do more than that. We'll rescue her and flame broil the snake. He said. All I care about is getting Misaki dash. Naru, you're staying behind, Itachi said. She whirled around to him, her jaw slack. Excuse me. He went after you once. He could try to take you both this time around, I won't risk it. We will find her and we will rescue her. I'm not some helpless child. She snarled. You're my family, and I won't see you hurt. He snapped back before he deflated and pulled her in. I love you, and I won't see you hurt, he whispered and kissed her head. Please, just let me find her and handle this. We'll find her. Obito corrected and turned to the others. As you all know, Misaki is an honorary Akatsuki member. She's my niece, and we all care for the girl. Spread out, check your resources, check everything you can, find her. He ordered. The others nodded and shot in different directions. Go to the Hokage and let him know what's going on. I'll send my crow when I find something. Itachi said. Naru's lip quivered before she nodded. That evening, Naru sat in the Hokage's office, tears running down her cheeks as they waited, and waited, and waited. As the sun set lower and lower, her sanity grew lower and lower. Naru, go home and try to rest. I have my best trackers on it. Itachi has his team on it, and we'll find her. Hiruzen said. Before it's too late? She asked bitterly. Naru walked out of the office and looked at the swing of the academy, and her lip quivered. I can't lose her, I can't. Naru. She turned to see Kakashi's Nin-ken, Garuko, run up and sit by her feet. Hey Garuko, she greeted him and rubbed his head. Boss sent me, he's got her trail. What? She asked. He's been tracking her nonstop, we found her trail and he's going ahead to find the hideout, he sent me for you. Oh. She nodded and raced out of the village following the dog. They raced miles away from the village, heading towards Keishi. Kakashi looked at Naru, and Garuko burst through the trees, her eyes pleaded with him. I got her, the hideout isn't far from here, he said. How dash? I never pulled my hounds when we found the snake, I had them follow that scent. Naru whimpered before she threw her arms around him and sobbed into his chest. He rubbed her head as she let out loud, heartbreaking sobs. Thank you. She managed after a few minutes. Thank you, thank you. She wiped her face and took calming breaths. Her scent is strong, so we're close, Garuko said and sniffed the air. Ready? Kakashi asked. I'm sorry, Naru said. He frowned before he blinked a few times as a wave of chakra washed over him. Naruko collapsed with a whimper. Kakashi hit the ground on his knees, and wavered. I appreciate it, I do, but I have to save her and you can't get in my way, she whispered just as he collapsed. 000. Nara raced the rest of the way, finding the doors to the hideout and pushing them open. The halls were dark and lit by torches, and she stepped lightly down the hallways, listening for anyone else. Welcome, she stiffened at the voice she hadn't heard in years. Her blood ran cold, and her heart rate spiked. She turned and looked at Orochimaru standing behind her, his gold eyes gleaming. To what do I owe the honor? Where is she? She growled. Quite a beautiful girl, your pretty face, with the Uchiha genes, she'd be a stunner older. Where is she? She yelled. She's no longer your concern. You did as I instructed, you gave me my vessel. She will stay with me, and when my DNA is fully infused with her, she will become my new body. She's a child. Nara whimpered. He chuckled and heaved a sigh. She's a pool of genes of strong clans, she's nothing but a vessel that will give me long life and the Sharingan. Possibly more, if I have investigated enough. He chuckled. I'm not a total monster, I'll let you say goodbye, follow me. He turned. Naru followed him down the halls to a large room with multiple containers, beakers of liquids, and a table with shackles. Well, you've grown up, she turned to Kabuto, who pushed his spectacles up his nose. Where, Misaki? She cried out as she looked at the gestation incubator filled with clear liquid, and floating inside was Misaki with an air mask over her mouth and nose. No. She screamed and hit the glass, and sobbed. Let her out. Let her out. She sobbed. I'll do anything. She sobbed. She turned to both men, who had twisted smiles on their faces. I've already told you, she's my vessel, she'll provide me the results I desire. He said. Nara looked at her daughter again and took a deep breath. I'll do it. What? He chuckled. I'll do it. I'll take her place. She turned. She may have the Uchiha genes, but I'm pure Uzumaki genes. She paused. You have nothing that can benefit me, she's the key to true longevity and dash. I have Kyuubi. She said. And? He chuckled. Think about it. She may unlock the Sharingan, but it's not guaranteed. Kyuubi has been around since the beginning of time. You can inject me with your DNA, take over my body, have access to the Kyuubi and his knowledge and power. She said. That's quite the offer, all for a thing that created such turmoil for you, so much you tried to abort her, Nara swallowed. How would she react if she knew you tried to end her before she had a chance? I offered you a better choice. Take it. Nara snarled. She won't be mature for years. I'm mature now, I have control of Kyuubi, he may know ways to achieve your goals quicker. The chances are greater with an adult and her level of reserves, you'll be quite powerful, Orochimaru-sama, Kabuto said. The man looked at her, then at the child in the tube, and smirked. You realize you're giving up your life. Let her go, let me send her home, and I'll go without a fight. She said. Orochimaru's head shot forward, his teeth sinking into her neck. She gagged and fell to her knees as he pulled away. You will surrender to me, your body will be mine. He said. Nara gagged and gripped her shoulder and huffed. Let her go, please. She begged. Kabuto, wake the beast. Nara pushed up and stumbled to her feet. Kabuto began to drain the tube, Misaki collapsed to the bottom, and he turned off the gas in the mask and opened the door. Nara scooped Misaki up in her arms and gently shook her. Open your eyes. Come on. She begged and winced at the pain of the mark pulsing. Mama? She groaned and opened her eyes. Nara sobbed at her purple eyes that looked around rapidly as she pushed up and wiped her wet hand down her shirt. What happened? I was training with Kakashi, then all of a sudden something hit me and I fell. "Mama, why are you crying?" she asked. "Nothing, my sweet, come with me." I don't think so," Kabuto began. "If she is harmed, the deal is off. I can break this bite if I want to." Naru hissed and glared at Orochimaru. "I'll walk her to the door," she said, and pulled Misaki's hand and headed out of the room, backtracking the halls. Misaki glanced back as Kabuto followed them through the dark halls. She looked at Naru, who stumbled and huffed for air. "Mama?" she asked. "I'm scared." "It's okay, it's going to be okay," she said. They stopped at the door. Naru looked out at the dark forest, the sun beginning to bathe the darkness in light. "I want you to listen to me," Naru said, and bent down to her. She gripped her arms and let out a breath. "Do you remember what I told you a year ago? That I should stick with Daddy, he can protect me always," she said. "Exactly." She bit back a sob. "I want you to do that for me. You find Daddy and stay by his side from now on." "I'm confused," she whimpered and looked at Kabuto again, then back to her. "What's going on?" I want to stay with you." She hugged her. "Mama has to do something, and I won't be able to be by your side, but I'll always be in your heart." She pulled her back. "Daddy, Uncle Sasuke, and Uncle Obito, Tsunade, Jiraiya, Kakashi, Sakura, they'll take care of you and raise you into an incredible ninja." She sobbed. "I'm sorry I can't." "Why can't you?" "Mama," she cried. I'll be good. I won't adopt any more animals, and I won't cause fights with Dash." "Shoo," she brushed her hair back and smiled. "It's going to be okay. Kakashi is straight ahead, about 10 miles. I want you to walk that way and do not come back, do not stop, just run. Okay?" "Misaki, I need you to promise me you won't come back here." She gripped her arms tightly. "I love you. Now go." She pushed Misaki forward. "Mama." "Go, Misaki, now." She barked. The girl whimpered and stepped back slowly. Kabuto stepped forward and grabbed her neck, making her wince in pain. "I love you," Naru mouthed as he shut the door. Misaki began to wail but ran in the direction her mother told her to run. Misaki stumbled through the forest, her cries echoing off the trees. She stumbled and tripped as her tears distorted her vision. "Mama." Kabuto watched from the bushes as the girl stumbled on, and he glanced back towards the hideout before he pulled out a scalpel. He stepped forward and purposefully stepped on a twig. Misaki gasped and turned around to him. She stumbled backwards and fell with a whimper. Let my mama go," she growled, but her voice broke. Kabuto snorted and launched forward, his scalpel drawn, ready to deliver a deadly cut. Misaki yelped, throwing her arms up to protect herself, and waited for the blow. Kabuto grunted as the world distorted in a swirl right in front of the girl, around his outstretched hand. He screamed in agony as his arm shrank and pinched around his forearm before disappearing into nothing. He stumbled and cursed as he healed the arm that was cut clean from his mid-forearm. Blood splattered on her face and arms, and all over the ground before green chakra glowed and clotted the wound. He huffed and glared at the girl, who quaked in fear. He snatched another scalpel from his pouch, ready to attack again. "Chidori!" Kakashi dropped from above and thrust his hand down through Kabuto's stomach. He screamed in agony and fell to the ground. Kakashi huffed and looked at the bushes as Obito stepped out. Kabuto sneered at him and focused chakra on his wounds. "This won't stop our plans, she's as good as dead," he forced out. "Enough, I'll deal with you later." Obito stared at the man who was into the same swirl and disappeared, leaving nothing but his scalpel and blood. "Nice move taking out his arm," Kakashi said. "You're quicker and more precise from that gift," he said. "I still don't understand exactly how you found me," he said. "Our Sharingan is linked together, what you see, I see. If you'd focus your little brain on the link you'd see the same," he explained, and insulted at the same time. Listen, there's a lot I want to say and it may not be the best time, so can we talk once this is all done? I guess I owe you that much, Bakashi. Uncle Bito. Misaki wailed. He whirled around and scooped the girl in his arms and hushed her as she sobbed into his shoulders. Mama. Mama. I know, your daddy is on the way, okay? My clone is leading him here right now, it's gonna be okay, he comforted and rubbed her head gently. Choice. We can't find Kabuto anywhere, sir. Orochimaru resisted, rolling his eyes at the loss of his apprentice. The fool overestimated his opponents, he deduced. He glanced over at Naru, who lay on the table strapped down. She whimpered and shivered as purple chakra rose from the bite on her neck. Won't be long now. He grabbed the vials of blood and turned to the girl. Naru whimpered, watching as he approached her. Flashes of all those years ago came back as he put his cold hands on her skin again. She turned her head away, and a tear slipped down her cheek. Misaki was safe and with Itachi, and that was all that mattered. She may die here today, but her daughter would be safe. 000. Itachi burst through the bushes with Sasuke on his tail. He huffed and looked at Obito and Kakashi, then to Misaki. He let out a shaky breath as he stepped up to the girl who was still crying in Obito's arms. Saki, Obito whispered. She looked up and began crying vocally at the sight of her father. He dropped down and scooped her into his arms, holding her tight. Daddy! She wailed. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I didn't know. She blubbered. Shoo, it's okay, he whispered. He stroked her head and rocked her gently until her cries grew quiet again. Itachi, you found her. He turned to Jiraiya, who landed in the clearing. He nodded to the man and looked back down at Misaki. Daddy, she whimpered. You gotta save Mama, that man, he has her, she whimpered. I should have known she'd go off to find you, he muttered. I let her, Itachi, it's my fault, I didn't expect she'd knock me out though, Kakashi said, stepping up. Right. I found him and he was sleeping like a baby. Obito said. Kakashi glared at his once best friend before rolling his eyes. I wanted to keep her out of this, she suffered enough, Itachi huffed. Jiraiya, please take Misaki back to Konoha. No. I'm coming too. I wanna save Mama. Misaki protested. Misaki, you don't understand this situation, you can't go near him again. If anything happened to you, too, he stroked her cheek. You're going home. My home is with Mama. She pushed his arms. I'm saving my Mama. Misaki dash. No. She barked, her chakra sparking around before settling. Misaki, Obito called. She turned to meet his Sharingan that spun and put her into a gentle sleep. Itachi scooped her up in his arms and kissed her forehead. I'm sorry, princess, but I'll save her, he whispered. He handed her to Jiraiya, who nodded. The hideout isn't far, Naru still has time. How do we know he hasn't moved her? Sasuke said. He's desperate, he'll have made an advancement in the takeover where he is, if it takes too long, which with Kyuubi fighting against him, it will, but he'll get as much of a hold on her as possible. Itachi stood. Let's go save Naru. 000. Naru screamed as she sat bent over, holding her head as voices spat insults and harsh things at her. Purple liquid dripped down her body from the bite mark on her neck and surrounded her. A loud thud and an animal-like roar echoed along the empty hall of her psyche. She glanced up with shaky vision at the gate that held back Kyuubi. His furry hand punched and scratched at the bars as he roared and cursed her. His chakra tried its best to wash out past it, but exploded away as it passed. She knew the pill he forced her to swallow a bit ago was the cause. She had hoped the man would be naive enough to believe she had control of the beast, and if he went to take over her body, she would willingly break the seal, free Kyuubi, and let him obliterate the man where he stood. But Orochimaru was 2 steps ahead of her. I wouldn't want that pesky fox to thwart my plans now, would I? He chuckled as he shoved the pill to the back of her mouth and down the back of her throat. She held her quivering hand up and looked at her skin, the color faded, and red and black vine-like shapes covered her skin. The purple liquid ran down her body faster, and the voices grew louder. She gagged and rocked in place. "Mama!" Misaki's voice called, and she closed her eyes and sobbed. She glanced up and saw flashes of Misaki through the years. She sniffled and held her hand out to the image of her daughter. She watched as the seals moved back from her hand, and the burning stopped. "I could stop it. I could, but if I do, Misaki is as good as dead." She closed her eyes, letting the images stop. The burning grew, and the pain pulsed through her nerves. "Goodbye, my love." Orochimaru watched as the seal glowed on Naru's body. He squeezed the bag filled with his blood that had been infused with his senjutsu chakra. He had 2 more to inject into her body. While the seal corrupted her mind, his blood would corrupt her physically. Had he not been in a time crunch, he would have molded Naru's body slowly and methodically, adding other DNA to her so she would be the perfect host for long-lasting, but the quicker he was done, the better. With Kabuto missing, no doubt defeated, her rescuers would arrive shortly. He smiled as loud explosions shook the building and grew closer until the room wall exploded. A red crackling bone arm appeared through the smoke as Itachi stepped inside. "Itachi-kun, what a pleasant surprise, here on a rescue mission." Orochimaru purred. "Let her go," he ordered. Sasuke and Kakashi slipped inside. He chuckled as he looked at the 3 Sharingan wielders and cocked his head. "All this for the Jinchuriki? My, she must be of high value." "Kakashi, how did it feel learning what happened under your nose?" he taunted. Kakashi growled in his throat and spun the kunai in his fingers. "She's already accepted her role, she's let my curse mark invade her mind. It's much easier when they don't fight it. I didn't even have to accelerate it with the mind awakening pill," he purred. "Let her live out her role as my host." "Never." Sasuke yanked his katana from his side, pouring lightning style into the blade, and charged Orochimaru. He chuckled as he dodged and kneed the boy in the stomach and kicked him to the side. He slammed into the beakers, flinching as glass shattered on him. He gasped as Orochimaru's killer intent slammed into him. A vision of his death hit and paralyzed him with fear. Itachi raced forward, dodged the man, and reached Naru's side. He ripped the 4 line from the needle in her arm. A white constrictor shot around his body, and he grunted as it squeezed and hissed. Orochimaru smirked as Itachi squirmed in his snake's grasp before his body exploded into crows, and feathers fell in front of him. The world rippled before slipping away into a red and black view. "A Genjutsu without any real eye contact, I must say, Itachi, your use of the Sharingan is remarkable," he said. Flames exploded on the Sannin and burned his skin. He winced as real burning exploded where the fire crept along. Itachi rose from the floor and wielded a kunai. He glared at the snake. He rose his arm to cut him down. Orochimaru bit into his lip. The sharp pain of the bite caused the world to ripple and melt away. He chuckled as he pulled back. Kakashi was lifting Naru from the bed. Orochimaru made a hand sign, and his neck shot out. Kakashi released her and jumped back, dodging him. "Fire-style fireball jutsu!" Sasuke yelled. The roaring ball of fire barreled towards the Sannin. He snorted and let his body fall below the fire, and shot towards him. Sasuke grunted in shock as he appeared in front and kicked him into the wall. "Chidori!" Kakashi raced forward, his hand popping with the lightning jutsu. Kakashi smirked as his jutsu sliced through the Sannin's arm. Orochimaru let out a tsk as he landed in the demolished hallway, blood pouring from his missing arm. His jaw cracked and opened as hands emerged from his mouth until an unharmed version of himself crawled out of the wounded one. He dropped down and focused, opening his mouth, and thousands of snakes shot out. "They're venomous, watch out," Itachi warned, seeing the fangs as they headed towards the 3. They jumped back from the flood of snakes, leaving the small room and Naru behind. "We can't just run," Sasuke said. "I know that," Itachi snapped. His Sharingan morphed, and blood bubbled from his eye before running down like tears. Black flames exploded from the air, landing on the wave of snakes and burning them. Black flames? Amaterasu, Itachi clarified. Don't touch the flames, he warned. The snakes hissed in agony as they collapsed in death from the flames. We left Naru back there, Kakashi said. Itachi focused on the flames and bit by bit they were extinguished. They rushed back to the room but found it vacant. Orochimaru and Naru were gone. Kakashi bit his thumb and quickly summoned his Nin-ken and sent them out to locate their scent. Orochimaru raced through the halls, Naru slung over his shoulder, and he glanced back and snorted. It wouldn't be long now, his little snakes were no match for the three of them. He burst through the doors to the outside and slowed slightly. Naru whimpered as she looked towards the hideout. Kill him, she thought. Orochimaru turned, just as lightning shot out in a straight line like a blade and pinned him by his shoulder to the tree. He grunted and watched Naru collapse to the ground. He looked up at Sasuke, who held his hand out, the Chidori chirping in his hand, leading to the Sannin. Quite impressive, you learned chakra molding and manipulation. Why had you been brighter those years ago? I could have just marked you as my vessel. He chuckled. I thought about it, simply stealing the baby Uchiha and turning his prime body into mine. He chuckled. But she gave the longevity that you couldn't provide. He said. Itachi walked up to him and focused his Sharingan before staring into Orochimaru's eyes. The Sannin blinked as his world shifted and turned inverted with a red sky. Orochimaru found himself pinned in the air. He grunted and thrashed about, but could not break free. Itachi stepped up to him and pulled out a katana. What is this? Tsukuyami, a realm of spirit and darkness, you're mine. He hissed. Orochimaru watched as hundreds of Itachis appeared. And one by one they began to stab and cut his body. His screams echoed in the red air, and try as he might, he couldn't break free from the torture. Sasuke glanced back as Itachi groaned and dropped to his knee and caught his balance. Orochimaru let out a hiss of pain and his body fell slumped to the tree. Sasuke let the lightning blade drop. What did you do? Tsukuyami, Itachi rasped. He's done for, he huffed. Orochimaru let out a noise before his mouth opened, and a blur shot out. They turned around as a giant mutated snake with Orochimaru's facial features was arched up, its scales were smaller white snakes. He hissed at them and bobbed slightly. Even with that genjutsu, you can still be upright, Kakashi muttered. He twirled two kunai and launched forward as Orochimaru let out a rasped yell. The scales shot towards the jounin, who spun in the air and sliced the heads off. He jammed his kunai into the back and dragged them down his body. Sasuke raced forward and poured lightning chakra over his blade, and cut through Orochimaru's body. The snake collapsed to the ground, and they huffed as they stared at the monstrosity before them. Naru whimpered in pain, drawing their attention once more. Itachi stumbled over and lifted her in his arms. Naru? He whispered. She looked at him, her left eye was gold like Orochimaru's, but the right was the blue he knew so well. It'll be okay, we'll fix this. He whispered. She forced a smile before her head fell to the side, and she bit back a cry of pain. The curse mark still exuded a purple smoke. We'll need Jiraiya to seal the bite, Tsunade can extract whatever he put in her body. He stood up and tried to take a step before he collapsed. Sasuke turned to run to his brother, but fell to his knees at the same time Kakashi did. About time, my blood when spilled evaporates in the air and creates a toxin that paralyzes your body, Orochimaru said. His body stitched itself back together and rose again. He chuckled as he let his body curl around Itachi and Naru. You're smitten with the girl, she let you become a father after all, you can have her memories. He snarled and shot towards them. Tendo! Orochimaru yelled as a force slammed into his body and shoved him backwards. He snarled as he lifted his head and looked at the figure in front of Itachi and Naru. Orange spiky hair, with purple ringed eyes and black piercings through his body. Those eyes, he said. You have great timing, Itachi heaved a sigh. Orochimaru, your acts thus far have been atrocious, you will not live past this day. He said. 5 more appeared, all sporting the same style piercings and orange hair. "I will not die here today," he hissed. "Mama." Itachi's heart stopped as the voice split the air. He looked to see Misaki standing in the clearing. She huffed for air and sweat slipped down her face, her eyes watered as she raced towards Naru. "Misaki, no!" Itachi barked. Orochimaru launched towards the girl, the snake scales shooting towards her, and she flipped in the air, dodging their strikes with ease. Itachi stared in awe as his daughter dodged the rapid movements with ease. "Fire style, Phoenix Flower Jutsu!" she yelled. Flames shot towards the snake and landed, burning a few of the smaller heads. She landed feet from Itachi and ran up to Naru. She cupped her face and whimpered as Naru looked at her and sobbed. "Misaki," she rasped. "Mama." "Your eyes," Naru smiled. "That's my girl," she said as she stared into the Sharingan. Orochimaru wailed in pain as the 6 paths began to battle against his snake form. "Why are you here? You're supposed to be safe." Itachi scolded. "I said I was saving Mama." She snarled back at him. "You can't put me in a genjutsu and send me away." She pouted. "It's dangerous." "It's my Mama." She snarled back. Orochimaru cried out as the mechanical form of pain pinned his body down with ease. Another walked up as a head with a kanji 4 king on the forehead appeared from the ground, with purple flames at the bottom. He put his hand on the top of Orochimaru's head. "You shouldn't have done this, should you?" he asked. A long tongue appeared from Orochimaru's mouth and was pulled towards the large mouth of the king. He gagged and thrashed in his prison. "You may seal this body, but I will return, that mark guarantees so," he said. The tongue was yanked forward and into the king before it disappeared once more. The large snake's body fell with a loud thud. Kakashi crouched next to Itachi and looked at his student, and clenched his fists. Thank you," Naru whispered. She looked at Kakashi and gave a shaky smile, then looked towards Itachi. "Promise me," she whispered. He cocked his head and leaned closer to her. "Promise you'll take care of her," she whimpered. "Naru." Naru yanked the blade still in Kakashi's hand and plunged the blade into her chest. "Mama!" Misaki screamed. Naru let out a gasp as her body fell back in Itachi's arms. She gave a small smile before blood ran from her mouth. Her skin paled, and her eyes grew unfocused. She managed one last smile before she let out a breath of air, and her head fell back. "Naru!" Itachi barked and grabbed the blade handle and went to pull it out before he looked at her. "Naru, you," he let out a sob and pulled her up. He buried his face into her neck. There was no labored breathing, no heartbeat, nothing. "No," he sobbed. "Mama!" Misaki screamed through her tears. "Happy little family." Misaki giggled as she ran around the yard, Kuki barking at her heels. She let out a hoo and tumbled to the slushed ground and rubbed her arms and legs, making a small snow angel. Kuki barked and mimicked her drop and wiggled around on his back. "You're so silly." She giggled and picked up the fox and held him above her. He pawed her face and caught the necklace around her neck. "Careful, boy," she said, sitting up and checking the silver necklace that held a twisted design with the Uzumaki symbol on one side and the Uchiha symbol on the other. Itachi had just given it to her this morning for her birthday present and explained it was made of chakra and symbolized she was a member of both great clans, and they were a part of her. She held the necklace, kissed it gently, and tilted her head back as the winter wind whipped through her long hair. Kuki grumbled and pawed at her arm, getting her attention again. "Sorry, boy," she said. "Misaki, come inside for lunch," Itachi called. She grunted as she jumped up, scooped the fox in her arms and skipped up the deck, and shook off the snow and slush from her jacket and hair. She stepped inside and let Kuki run through the house. She walked over to Kiki that ran around her large cage, and poured a bowl full of pellets for her to eat. "Did you have fun?" "It's not as much snow as snow, but still fun," she chirped. She climbed on the tall seat and waited as he slid a sandwich cut diagonally in front of her. I tried really hard this time, he said. Misaki giggled, took a big bite, and sighed. Itachi leaned in the kitchen watching as she scarfed the food down and tried to sneakily slip some to Kuki. Once she was finished eating, and pushed the plate away from herself and sighed happily. Well? I'm sorry, Daddy, but it's still not as good as Mama's. He let out a defeated noise and dropped his head as Misaki giggled at his misery. She made it well known he didn't spread the condiments the right way, or it was bunched in the center, or the bread was too toasted, or even the meat was cut too thick. Try as he might, he couldn't replicate the way she loved her sandwiches. So, Daddy, Misaki said in a sweet voice that she wanted something. He arched his brow, waiting as she batted her eyes and wiggled in her seat. Can I go with Uncle Sasuke and Kakashi-sensei on their C-rank mission to tea tomorrow? They promised to show me all kinds of jutsu. And I want to pick out some gifts for baby Sarada. I don't know, he drawled and tapped his chin, knowing full and well it was driving her insane. Please see. She whined, folded her hands together, and stuck her lower lip out. I guess so. She cheered loudly and pumped her fists. But only if you do your chores and all of your homework is done. You may be top of the academy, but it doesn't mean you can slack off. Yes, sir. She saluted. I have a meeting with the Hokage today. And Kakashi-sensei is coming to watch you, promise to be good? I promise. She held her hand up and nodded quickly. Itachi smiled and walked down the hallway to the big bedroom and got dressed, before adjusting the green vest that he still wasn't accustomed to wearing. Hi, Kakashi-sensei. Misaki's greeting sounded from down the hall. He chuckled as he tied his hatayate on his head and slipped back out of the bedroom. Hey there, kiddo. So, did you get an answer? Kakashi asked in a not-so-whisper. Yep. Hook, line, and sinker. All right. What was that? Nothing, Daddy. She chirped and held her hands behind her back. He rolled his eyes and glanced at the jounin, who chuckled. Thanks again for this, he said. Kakashi nodded at him. She's had lunch, but if she wants a snack, she can have one, there in the cabinet. She's really wants to go out and play in the snow, but she has to put on her jacket, scarf and hat before no matter what she tells you and dash. He paused as Kakashi stared at him. You know all of this, I'm sorry. He huffed and rubbed his head. Kakashi laughed and patted his shoulder. It's okay, I understand, he chuckled. I know the snacks, the winter gear, the medicine, the homework, I know it all. He said. All right, bye, Misaki. Bye, Daddy. She chirped and kissed his cheek. I'll be home as soon as I can, homework. He pointed. I promise. He pulled his shoes on, walked outside, and shut the door. Wanna go spar outside? Kakashi tempted. Oh ho yeah. Oh. Itachi blinked a few times as he looked at Tsunade sitting across from the desk. The woman had taken the seat from Hiruzen after he pushed her 4 months ago. He managed before shaking his head. What? Iruka has suggested that Misaki become a genin. She repeated. She has the highest grades that rival yours and those of Minato's. She has a lineage of greatness. She inclined her head. Does it concern you? I mean, a little, he said. I was content for her to stay a genin until she was older, at least 12. It's not a final decision, it's a suggestion. She could become a genin, stick with D-rank missions, and learn under you, Kakashi, or Sasuke. She paused. Then, when her yearmates become genin, she would be fitted with teammates like normal. I don't know. I understand now how nervous Naru had been for her to learn the ninja ways, he said, glancing at the floor. If Misaki got hurt or anything, I'd never forgive myself. Itachi, I want you to think about it, Tsunade said. I will tell Iruka to hold until you give me an answer. If it's a no, then she'll stay where she is. If you say yes, we'll do it as I suggested. My little goddaughter is a feisty little girl, and I know once she gets a rank, she'll climb through them with ease. Aside from the fact that I fear for her safety, what happens if she gets hurt like her mother had, or gets wrapped up with the wrong people and gets put into a spot like I was, he said. I understand, Tsunade said. Think about it, no rush. Thanks, he said. He bowed as he walked out of the office and headed for T Avenue. He stopped outside of the sweet shop that was Masaki's favorite, especially their dango. Hey there, Itachi-san. Daichi greeted with a wave. Hi Daichi, can I put an order in? Of course, where is little Masaki? Home, I had a meeting, Itachi smiled. I need a birthday cake with 8 candles. Oh. Her birthday today? I'll send some extra dango with it. He chirped and grabbed a cake before carefully spelling out Happy Birthday, Misaki in yellow icing with flowers around the words. Itachi watched as Daichi meticulously placed the candles into the cake. His stomach clenched as he counted the candles and could only think about her joining an official ninja. Yes, he had taught her so much at a young age, but the thought of her becoming a full-fledged genin, which would lead to the Chunin exams. He wanted to be sick. He had to talk to someone about it to help him with the decision. He knew he couldn't coddle Masaki forever, but he wanted to. Here you go. Daichi chirped, setting the box on the counter with a clear container of dango sticks with a red ribbon around it. Tell Masaki to have a great birthday. Thank you, Itachi grabbed his wallet before Daichi waved him off. Little Masaki is so kind when she comes in, cleaning the tables when I have a rush. She's earned a free cake and dango today. Oh, thank you. He smiled. He walked out with a wave and began to walk home. As he got closer, his steps slowed until he stood in the middle of the street. He glanced around before he turned and headed to his new destination. He walked into the cemetery and headed to the stone, gently brushing the slush off, and knelt in front of it. Hi, I wanted to come and talk about Misaki. I say it all the time, you'd love her, and how much she's progressed. He muttered. She's blowing me away with how smart she is, so much so, they want to make her a genin now. He said. I honestly am lost, and I don't know what to do. Itachi heaved a sigh and continued his conversation, hoping for a reply from beyond the grave on what he should do for his daughter. He sat in front of the stone for hours until snow began to fall. He finally dusted himself and the desserts off, heading back home. I'm home. He called, kicking his shoes off and hiding the cake behind his back. Daddy, you were gone for hours. No meeting takes that long. Misaki announced and put her hands on her hips. He chuckled with a nod and walked up to her. Happy birthday, princess. He pulled out the cake and smiled as she giggled and clapped, jumping a few times. Daichi said you have earned a cake and a free dango today, he said. She oh-oh'd at the dessert and licked her lips, ready to dive into the treat. Dinner first. Okay. I'll put it in the fridge. She chirped, took the items, and skipped into the kitchen. I'm cooking tonight. She announced. Oh really? What are you cooking? It's a surprise. Stay out of the kitchen. She ordered. Itachi chuckled and held his hands up in surrender. Where's Kakashi-sensei? He asked, glancing at the door where the man's shoes were missing. I sent him home. He turned and smiled at Naru, who leaned in the hallway. You shouldn't be up, you're on bed rest. I'm 39 weeks pregnant, not handicapped, she protested. Besides, I sent him home less than 10 minutes ago. She said. He kissed her lips and rubbed her distended stomach gently. How are you? I mean, any issues that you can tell? No, aside from the fact your son has been kicking me for hours. She said. Misaki didn't kick nearly half as much, she said. I think he may get that hyperactiveness from his mother, Itachi said and pulled her to the table. Naru snorted at him as she sat down with a groan. What did Tsunade want? She asked. Itachi sat in the chair and rubbed her hand and arm, his stomach tightened again before he looked into Naru's eyes. I'll tell you later, we need to talk, he whispered. I have been trying to come up with an answer to this situation all day, which is why I'm so late. Naru nodded and looked as Masaki walked out with a platter of toasted sandwiches and slid it onto the table. Sandwiches? Itachi asked. She nodded and grabbed a pitcher of juice and slid it on the table before she sat to the side and wiggled. I made them right, by the way, she jabbed at Itachi, who scoffed, making Naru chuckle. I think I'll take that dango back for that comment, he said. I mean, you try your best, Daddy, but it's still better when Mama makes them. The three sat at the table and ate the dinner Masaki prepared, laughing and talking about different topics. Itachi brought the cake to the table, and the candles were lit for Masaki to blow out. I think I'm going to pass on cake, save me a piece? Naru asked. I'm very tired, but I'll have it for breakfast, okay? Okay, Mama. Happy birthday, she kissed her head before she made her way back to the bedroom and lay on the bed. Itachi tucked Masaki into bed later that night and slipped into the bedroom and shut the door. He looked at Naru, who stared at the ceiling, her hand gently rubbing her stomach. Are you sure you don't want to be in the hospital? No, I'm okay, she smiled. But you're not, what's going on? He sighed and sat on the bed, rubbing Naru's foot as he worked up the words. They want her to become a genin now, he whispered. Naru blinked a few times, then looked at the door. Oh, okay. How do you feel about it? Nervous, but not surprised, she chuckled. If she does, she'd be with me, Kakashi, or Sasuke until her year mates become genin themselves, then she'd join a team. He said. I know how you felt about her being a ninja, and I fear she'd end up like I did or go through what you did, and I think she'd be great at it, though, she proved herself when you all saved me. She said. She pulled me back when I died. Itachi paused his rubbing and stared at her stomach, where that fateful day she chose to die and stop Orochimaru from ever coming back. He nearly lost her, but thanks to Masaki and Nagato, they managed to revive her and separate Orochimaru from her soul and body. As soon as they returned to the village, Itachi promptly married her, and a few weeks later, she announced she was pregnant with his child. He sighed as he crawled next to her and wrapped his arms around her. He kissed her shoulder and rubbed her stomach gently. Don't remind me how close I came to that, she smiled and nodded. I guess we can sit down with her and dash. She stopped as the door opened, and Masaki jumped on the bed and pushed her way between Itachi and Naru. He stuttered as she gave a harsh shove that knocked him off the bed and to the floor. Hey! I want to sleep with my little brother, good night, Daddy. She chirped. You little brat, he scooped her up and tickled her sides, making her squeal. Good night, he whispered as he draped his arm over Masaki and rubbed Naru's stomach one more time. Good night. Masaki chirped before she yawned and closed her eyes. The end to this story.